Howdy, folks, and welcome to the home of adventures in Alberon. Although we are not doing a regular session of Alberon tonight, we are doing a one-shot called Many Minds. I'm joined by a couple of people. You know, of course, from Alberon, Matt and Tina, who both play Gunter and Shay normally. We also have Michael, who is joining us. You guys may remember him if you tuned in to Gunter's Mudtown Madness as Gildus. Several times, actually. Miles and Allie are off this week on a different kind of adventure, and will be off, I believe, next week as well. So this week we are running Many Minds, which has a lot of input from some of you guys, which I'll talk about in just a second. It's actually complicated enough of a concept where it requires a little bit of an explanation. Next week we are going to be playing a one-shot called Kobe Quest, which is going to follow a band of kobolds after one of them is released by Morwyn way back in Port Quinn. After that, I believe the next time that we're doing a regular Adventures in Alberon episode will be episode 12 on October the 4th, which will be entitled, I want to say, Storm and Shore. But we'll get to that when we get there. I also want to announce a couple of things in terms of followers and stuff. We broke our goal last week, so super cool. We got custom-made dice for all of our players, which were made by Drew at dicey_encounters on Instagram. I purposefully did not pick them up from where they shipped to because I would open them and ruin it for everybody. So those I'm picking up tomorrow, and we will open. Tina, you and Matt are going to get yours next week, and then everybody else will get them the following week. A couple other quick announcements. We have a new kind of art voting system that we're going to use. As you guys have seen, we do have an artist now. So what we're going to do is at the beginning of a lot of our sessions, we're going to talk about some of the cool things that our players want to have made into art. And then we're going to let you guys vote, and that's what we're going to get made. I made an executive decision. We're going to get, for this last session, all of you guys defeating the Celestial as the art. Because that was just... it'll be Gunter crumpled on the ground.
It'll be Gunter dead.
No, everybody's in it, but you guys are in it where you were.
So we're not getting one of the ridiculous things that we wanted it to be?
No. Those are still possible, but I'm getting like that real epic moment right at the end, because that was pretty cool.
Doesn't matter.
I have them all still written down. We'll take votes on those. We'll get one of those made also.
Constantly moving forward.
Anyways. Also this week we have Sirenscape for all of our sound effects, for our music, for that kind of stuff, just to set the mood. It's a great digital tool set to use if you are a dungeon master or a player or somebody that likes to listen to a lot of goblins chewing on wood. That's one of the things that you can do. With that, we don't have a recap because this is a one-shot, so we are ready to get started as soon as Matt rejoins us. But we can just wait for Matt. While we're waiting for Matt, a couple other quick things. If you guys do have questions, we actually got a great couple of questions. Thanks to you, Talon, to Marjorie, and then somebody else who chose to remain anonymous for your questions that you sent. If you have questions for the cast, send your questions to cast@alberonrpg.com. Aside from that, we ready to get started?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Hoorah.
Huzzah!
So, let me pull up the appropriate music. Jesus. Let me pull up the appropriate music here. Again, one of the problems that I've been having with my home internet is it doesn't always save the stuff that I'm trying to save.
That's
However,
unfortunate.
it's very annoying. Okay. So.
Dice.
Yeah, dice are important.
That might be important.
We begin the game
Pineapples.
in the comfortable sitting room of an old man, though his well-worn and wrinkled skin is blemish-free. He gently pats an odd-looking dog absently as he finishes his story. And there, in the ancient dungeon antechambers of Turok Yi, they found a very fluffy dog of superior friendliness. And the thing was, though, and he kind of holds the dog ears up, which you could realize are bald. It was like the dog's ears had been rubbed in some kind of magic. It would return to the precise spot it had been at before and sit as content as a child. The dog wasn't the only odd thing about it, of course, but anyways, I ramble. That is why I make you bring the sending stone. You really never can know what will happen, and you will be better for my advice. Who would like to carry it? And you see he kind of proffers out a small stone with these sort of circles that have been inscribed into it.
Can I inspect it with my gaze?
Yeah, sure. Make a investigation check, I guess. Unless there's something in particular you're looking to look for.
No, I think I'm just seeing, like, is this any sort of special sending stone, or is this just a straight-up normal-ass fucking sending stone?
Okay, make an Arcana check, that would be.
That's a ridiculous number, because it's 16 as the base, and I have ridiculous Arcana. Plus 13.
Plus 13. Okay. With a 29. Yes, this is exactly a regular sending stone. You would imagine it is slightly enhanced. This can, to a certain extent, it has a much longer range than would be average. It is designed probably to potentially go beyond Alberon. Not necessarily to other planes, but definitely to other worlds, perhaps.
Well, if I absolutely must.
He hands it to you. Shiza, it's good of you to join us, and I'm happy to have you on this adventure.
It's been too long, my good friend. Shame about your students.
Well,
Easy come, easy go, as they say.
and you can see he looks pretty uncomfortable. It was just one. Two, I guess, technically now, but either way. You all have been brought here to...
Continue.
You all have been brought here. And he kind of starts to stand up, and the dog leaps off of his lap, and you watch as it trots over to its bed, where it was, and sits in the exact same spot that it had been in previously when you first entered the chamber. If we're ready to begin, I know all of you are seasoned adventurers and probably have brought your own gear, but is there anything else that you require of me?
Just payment when we're done.
Well, 2,000 gold each, as was agreed upon, of course.
Or information that I might be looking for.
Well, as we discussed previously, we can look into it. It depends on what you're able to procure.
Forgive me, I've been a bit flighty as of late. What exactly is our subject matter today?
The experiment is fairly complex, and I would imagine that you would understand it, of course, being a professor emeritus at the Bright Academy, but other company may not quite understand. At its root, simplified, we are tearing reality in half. And we're going to just peer and see what's behind it.
Absolutely splendid.
Other questions, or are we ready to go?
Which parts of reality are we going to be peering into?
Well, hopefully all of them.
Well, if I knew that, then I wouldn't need to perform this experiment. But for certain, if past experiments have any bearing, I would be prepared to travel through both time and potentially space.
I equip my shield.
Yeah. And if you are worried about combat, things tend to be of the abhorrent and strange nature.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. I was curious as to why you wanted to join this.
Well, I haven't seen a dear friend in so long, and you seem to have piqued my interest.
Well, fantastic. So nothing else is needed.
A stiff drink, perhaps.
Oh, I've got you there 5 times over.
Oh, well, I wouldn't necessarily, but I suppose it's your business.
I was simply joking.
Quality humor. He's good in that.
If you wouldn't mind then. And he leads you over to a door. It's a strange bluish metal. It's kind of like set into the shockingly red wooden frame. The handle, as he opens it, you notice, is glass, and inside there seems to be living stick insects that kind of chitter about tapping into the panes every now and then. But he pulls the door open and just politely gestures for you guys to enter this hallway. Seems to be wood that goes along.
After you. And you.
Gracious of you.
So generous.
I am nothing if not gracious.
So what order are you guys entering in?
I'm going to take head.
Okay. This is going to just be for my own knowledge here.
I'm probably last.
Probably last.
I'm a frail little
Okay, so you follow the two much more beefy individuals in front of you. Speaking of which, I would say, starting with you, Michael, what do you look like?
So I am a brown-haired mountain dwarf with kind of a copperish skin, 5 feet tall, very bulky, and I'm wearing chainmail in a blue and gold colors of my X-clan. It's very wear down, and a lot of my attire and weapons are kind of tattered. And I have a large maul that has an anvil for the head of it.
Fantastic. And then following right behind you, Tina, if you wouldn't mind describing what you look like.
I am a high elf. I stand about 5'9", fairly slender in studded leather. Any exposed skin, there are a number of scars, including one right down the sideline of my face. Most of my gear is worn but well kept. I do have a couple swords that are visible attached to my waist.
And then following behind, you have Matt.
What did I say? It was if Danny DeVito was cast as Gilderoy Lockhart.
So it's this very kind of pudgy. How tall?
Probably like flat 5 feet.
5 feet. So
Short
so Gunter.
squad.
Like, but a human.
So a fat human Gunter is who you're playing.
Yep.
And he's very foppish.
Very foppish. Okay.
Foppish young, old dandy.
So the dwarf, it's very interesting. So it's the dwarf, the elf, and the human, although the dwarf and the human are roughly the same size. Similar in nature, although one much more stout, the other a little bit more rotund.
Corpuscular.
Corpuscular is a fantastic word for it. But as you guys go down into this hallway, on either side, there are these incredibly strange items. You see to the left this clock that seems to be built out of some kind of a green crystal. And you can see that there is this sort of almost like a jeweled face, although quickly as you pass, and there are a lot of shadows. You guys are going, following Abernathy, who's holding a torch. So those of you with dark vision, who everybody but Matt, you guys can see fairly clearly. Matt, for you, it's a little bit harder to make
It is
out.
dreadfully dark in here.
Well, I can see in the dark. It doesn't. The torch is for your benefit, old friend.
Well, then pass it here.
He kind of leans forward and passes it to you.
Oh, terribly hot. Here, take it back.
Oh, all right.
Could you not reach that over my head, thanks?
Kind of looks down at you. It isn't in any danger of touching you, I promise.
Fear not.
Anyhow, you guys pass through this room, and there are swords and shields, and you can see a couple of different orbs that are kind of suspended off the ceiling by either chains or lengths of rope. But he seems to be something of a collector. There are certain items that are labeled. Many of them cobweb-covered, dust-covered, haven't been touched in some time. But you guys go forward, and you end up reaching into this circular room. And as you reach into it, there are stairs that go down. It's kind of like a theater almost, except entirely circular. And as they go down, there is like a stone circle about 15 feet across. The entire room at its widest point is about 45 feet across. And these stairs descend maybe every 5 feet. In the central area, you can see that there are faint glowing runes, although these are not neatly inscribed. You being from the Bright Academy, you having some knowledge of magic, and I'll say you also having some knowledge of magic. This is a weird way to do arcane runes. They are not circular or really patterned in any way, and in places they kind of leak up and onto the wall. Very odd and hard to read. But for all of that, they are glowing and appear to be working. And as you lead up the wall and see some of these elements of runes, you can see that there are like little points of light that seem to almost make constellations on this domed roof. You can see up, and as you look up towards the roof, there is this big glass sort of bubble, and within it there is a black crystal that seems to pulse with this inner light, and you feel kind of nauseous looking at it. On that stone circle right in the middle, there is what seems to almost be like a brass scale. There is one box that has this greenish gold kind of metal cube in it, and there is another box that is currently empty. And he, stepping into the room, just says, "Down to the bottom, come on." And begins to he lifts up his robes a little bit and begins to walk down these steps. What are you guys doing?
I'm gonna look around real quick and just kind of marvel at this strange area and maybe do an arcane check on the crystal.
Sure. Go ahead and roll your Arcana check.
It's not gonna have much to it, so that is going to come up to be an 11.
It's a crystal. Definitely magic. You feel magic coming off of it and radiating off of it, and it's this kind of sickening radiation. Outside of that, you've never seen anything like it before. I will say...
Follow... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm gonna go back in tow and follow and kind of mutter under my breath. Have you ever seen something like that before?
He would turn around at this and just go, "Oh, what? This is just a theater."
Oh, right, of course. Sorry, didn't really mean to.
Do you mean that?
Just thinking out loud.
Oh, it's perfectly harmless. It's a chaos gem. It won't hurt you as long as you don't touch it or stand near it or look at it or think about it too long. But
Chaos
come on. And
Safe.
he walks down.
Perfectly safe.
Nothing is perfectly safe, but as far as anything goes, and you'll be moving very far away from it just in a moment, so not to worry. That being said, if you see one wherever you're going, please retrieve it. I would be happy to reward you with double what you were promised. Please step into the circle.
As I walk down the stairs, I'm just gonna like sort of look at the runes and like just in passing and see like, do I recognize them?
Make an Arcana check.
Are
you doing anything as you walk
language
down?
that I recognize or runes that I would recognize?
I think similar to Matt.
Yeah, you can go ahead and make a roll as well.
That's 26.
Okay.
Natural 20.
Okay. The two of you, as you walk, look, and these are written in common. They're arcane. But it's very difficult to follow. I will say, you pick out elements of conjuration, of something that has to do with the dilation of time. You pick up on a lot of these, but I'll get to what you're seeing in a second. You also notice it isn't necessarily entirely chaotic. There are 3 points where it rises up onto the wall, and when you really look at it, they make almost like a swirl, and you would imagine this stone circle with this sort of brass scale and everything, that's going to turn into a portal probably, and you will fall through. You, having studied time and space quite thoroughly, based on these writings, this is going to teleport you somewhere. Based on these writings, he probably has no idea where. There is a lot of chaotic elements to this, and some of it seems to be fairly crazy.
Oh, this is quite exciting, Abernathy.
Oh, yes. It's, after my last spell, I needed something to work on, and this is a little bit better than harnessing the power of the banana.
You have certainly outdone yourself.
Well, thank you, old friend. I appreciate your compliments.
Oh, yes.
Are we all
Quite
ready to begin?
enthused.
Define ready.
Well,
Ready, little man.
The state of being prepared for something in the
It
future.
was a sarcastic remark.
It is not your strong suit.
What the elf said, continue.
okay, so you will understand what is happening, so let me explain this to you just briefly. Scientifically speaking, the Chaos Gem is a highly refractorized shard of silicone-based crystal, which, when oscillated to a synchronized pulse with negatively charged silicon particles, it bisects the temporal chronology of Alberon itself, leading to an accretion disk of simultaneously dilating possibilities, both infinite and predetermined, leading to a singularity which, when passed through, will pull you to an alternate point, in potentially both time and space. But for you two, as you might understand it, we're going to put some magic into the crystal, and you're going to go somewhere.
That is what he just said, yes? That is what I hear.
I mean, that was better for me. Much simplified.
Oh.
Thank you for that.
Oh, of course. I work with a wide range of individuals. So,
Shows.
yes. I'm going to go ahead and just drop a shard or two of Celilium into this basket, and the floor should open up, and bring you to the other side. I'm guessing when I do that, it might be somewhat of a violent reaction on my end. And as he says this, you see he pulls out this little cord with a worn, kind of gross-looking piece of leather, and he bites into it, and as he does, there is this shimmer of arcane light that settles over him and then kind of fades in. If you try to contact me and I don't respond right away, it probably means I'm unconscious or in a different plane. But worry not. They don't call me the reality bender for nothing. And as he says this, he produces these 2 circular pieces of purple crystal and drops them into the other basket. Suddenly, the stones around you begin to shake, and the circle shifts with a lurch, nearly causing you to lose your footing as the gem pulsates once, the large chaos gem, and a portal opens at the very center of the circle, the stones themselves seeming to tumble in. You guys feel movement. Give me 1 second. Let me pull up a different sounding soundtrack.
10 feet of movement.
Yeah. Alrighty. So,
I am now Horbach.
are you?
Well, I moved 10 feet to where Horbach is.
There you go.
Is that what it says? Horbach?
Yeah. Harbach.
Harbach. I think I will call
Sorry,
you
Harbeck.
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 Yeah.
Harbeck.
With another violent pop, a cold breeze hits your faces, along with a taste of ash and soot.
I've honestly tasted worse.
Looking around, you're in a
It's pleasant
forest.
spring day. What's wrong with you?
It is hard to breathe. The trees around you are smoldering ever so slightly, and there's a smoke that hangs thick, limiting your vision to perhaps 20 feet in front of you. Suddenly, you see, beyond you, within the fiery trees, a figure moving slowly, seemingly stepping through the flame. As he nears, you hear that his deep, gravelly voice is actually singing, and you're also aware of a sound of wood scraping. And as he draws past the veil of smoke, you can see his bloodied fingers are just strumming where there should be strings on a guitar, but at some point these strings seem to have burned away or worn down. Long ride the riders of Galston's tree, with Poyer and Rachel and Howard was 3. No Drake, no Draugr, no howling hand could dare stand and face this mighty war band. So through fire and iron and smoke they did ride, and there on the field of battle they died, to the angel of death with her halo of gold, with only one spared for the tale to be told. And he begins to kind of just walk past you, and you can see he's wearing this, oh thank you, this black leather armor, but it's been burned and kind of, you see like rents in it and where the flesh is kind of blackened underneath. He continues to sing as he walks into kind of the other end past you guys and begins to disappear into the smoke.
How positively dreadful.
What would you guys like to do?
I'm going to start off by summoning a weapon into my hand. It's going to be a warhammer.
Okay.
It's very shadowy and kind of wispy, but it is fully formed.
As you hold out your hand, down your shoulder, these shadows seem to cling to you and kind of make their way, almost like these swirls of smoke that coalesce into this huge warhammer, you said?
Warhammer.
Sure. Anybody else?
Gonna draw my rapier.
Okay. You draw your rapier. What are you doing, Matt?
I'm gonna...
Or Harbeck. I gotta remember these.
You,
She's
sir,
Maybe we shouldn't.
excuse me.
And you just kind of hear as he continues forward into the forest, this singing continue, but he doesn't seem to turn or react to you in any way.
Quite a nice singing voice, but, dreadfully looking.
There were no strings on that guitar.
I noticed. Yes. I wanna take stock of my surroundings.
Sure, make a perception check.
I wanna see,
We're
like...
here for you, little man. You
getting
point in the
ourselves
right.
Howdy, Crix.
That's, 12 plus something ridiculous.
12 plus something ridiculous, okay.
Humans.
Yeah,
So
variant
my
human, man.
12 becomes a 20.
Yeah, sure. Looking around, you can see you're in a forest of trees that at some point may have resembled maple, but looking up now, there are no stars in the sky. And it's not just the smoke. You don't see a moon, and Alberon has two. You don't see a single point of light. And the light seems to be emanating mostly from these trees that are on fire.
It appears we're no longer in Alberon.
What was your first hint?
Everything surrounding us not being Alberon.
You wouldn't happen to know where we are, would you?
I kind of look like I'm speaking to my hammer.
Okay. No response.
That
Was
doesn't
he
bode
just
well.
speaking to his hammer?
I've seen worse.
Can't imagine the business you two get into.
It's not good, I guarantee you that.
I'm
you
going
didn't
to
need to
step
assure me.
forward towards
Your life is very
the
short,
forest.
young man.
Okay.
and the gentleman that was walking through, was he on a path or
What?
was he just...
How would
You can
say
see,
you are?
looking kind of where he came from, there is sort of, maybe not a path, but a space that is not necessarily on fire. That he seemed to have picked his
Oh,
way
you
through, and it
innocent
seems to go
child.
up a hill slightly
Thought
and then
we would
over a
need to
crest.
be in your 500s. Then
He's
we
about
have
45 feet away from you now,
being-
and he's kind of disappearing into like a thicker sort of set of forest.
Okay. And we only have about 20 feet of vision.
Yeah, every now and then the smoke kind of moves and you can see a little bit further, but in any given moment, yeah, about 20 feet.
So, where do we want to go? Where the tuneless man was going, or where he came from?
I feel perhaps we find more if we go where he came from, but what do I know?
I mean, I feel like the one who has the most information here is that man.
This is fair.
I certainly have the most information. Whether or not it will be pertinent to our current predicament is an entirely other.
I was hired
Situation.
to assist you, so here I am to assist. You decide, I go.
You have been hired to assist me.
That is what he said. He needed the sword to protect the squishy. I protect the squishy.
I
With a
am
smile
the
on my
squishy
face.
in this situation.
Oh,
Are
yes.
you making fun of his weight?
I am.
Oh,
That is quite base.
I'm also making fun of the fact that you would not know what to do with this.
I know certainly what to do with it, and I take it and I throw it.
Okay, make a strength check. Are you contesting him throwing your sword?
No.
Okay.
That's a 9 plus something really bad.
What's your strength modifier?
Plus 0.
0. Okay. You take the sword out of her hand and you throw it, and as you do, the weight of the blade kind of carries backwards, and it goes maybe like 3 feet spinning end over end, and then right down, like blade into the ground.
Oh, look at you! You done good there, my little man.
Please.
And I hold out my hand, and it just reappears.
Look at you.
Oh yes. See, this is why I was hired.
look, the bickering's not gonna get us anywhere. So,
What was his name again?
Shiza.
Professor Warudo.
Warudo. That's a weird name. What do you suggest we do?
Well, I suggest we ascertain our whereabouts and search out these gems as Abernathy has directed us.
Alright, I'll take point. You behind me, and Milady take up the rear.
After you, good sir.
Alright.
I start going in the direction where the man came from.
Okay. You guys pick your way through this burning forest. Make a survival check.
Yes! That is an 18... Let's see, survival. So it's going to be a 19.
Okay.
Oh my god.
You find this path that this gentleman kind of trod over very easily. It's basically just where the fire isn't. Following his path isn't too hard, and you travel for about 20 minutes.
That's a nice feat.
Gotta get some stuff to hold these guys down here.
We got stuff.
We got
We got
Stuff and things.
stuff and stuff.
Stuff and
Oh no,
things.
it is an evil giant pineapple.
We're
Whatever
stuff
shall
and
we do?
So
There are numerous coasters around that would
Numerous
also function
coasters.
as
I will
weight.
use one of my enormous T6s.
So if you want to, you said you were leading,
Yes.
so you could place yourself right, kind of, yeah, perfect. And then you could place Shiza right behind you and Rayla behind that.
I'm gonna call you Cheez-Its.
That is Professor Warudo.
Well, don't like any of that.
So let's
Negative Ghost Rider.
this.
I need to figure out.
We
how
done
to
goofed.
not be as
That's a big N-O.
You look, and as you walk about 20 minutes, you do come to this area where there is a sort of rocky crag that rises up about 15 feet with a flat surface. And standing on that flat surface, you can see these two large black feathered wings that spread out and this golden halo that sort of rises above it. The halo itself being like a metal gold, not like a glowing sort of celestial feel. You can see held in one hand the staff end planted into the rock itself, this black metal scythe. From this distance, it's hard to make out details from it. You can see that there is this black kind of flowy garment, or robe perhaps, that clothes the rest of this creature. But for all intents and purposes, it looks like sort of a very creepy angel. You cannot make out its face at this moment.
Okay. Are we seeing the back of it right now?
You're seeing the wings and the halo kind of from the back. And I would say also, just for flavor, so I don't feel like setting this up too much, just kind of sprinkle a little fire around here.
Alright.
Don't really want to set it up because it's hard to balance these guys. I have a way I'm going to do it in the future. But
how's our vision right now? Is it pretty
it's about
smoky?
the same. You got about 20 feet of vision. So right now, the two of you are just making out the edges of this. Every now and then,
silhouette or something.
when this cold wind kind of blows the smoke aside, you're seeing little bits of it here and there. It doesn't seem to be moving, and it doesn't seem to have noticed you.
Can we end up, actually I should have asked this earlier, but can we see the sky through the smoke at all?
Yeah, I mean, given both of your perception checks, you can. It just seems to be entirely featureless. It's black.
Okay. Alrighty,
You see those wings too, right?
Yes.
I don't like the look of it. Let's move very carefully. Should have worn this today.
as I kind of nudge up my chainmail.
Okay. And as you're doing that, now you guys want to try to sneak around it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I probably have a thing to help with that.
And what is that thing?
Probably some sort of spell. Like some sort of... Perhaps some sort of passing without trace.
Oh, yeah? Do you want to... Gesundheit. And again,
Oh, thank you.
would
thank
you like to cast Pass Without a Trace?
If I have it, I think I do.
You're a wizard. You have Pass Without a Trace. I'm almost positive.
I think I would like to pass without a trace.
Okay. So, you, along with... actually, all three of you. It's anybody within 30 feet, I want to say. As long as they remain within 30 feet of you, will gain plus 10 on all stealth checks. I believe for 1 hour.
1 second, and I'll have it. Yeah, plus 10 bonus to stealth checks and can't be tracked except by magical means. Each creature you choose within 30 feet.
And so you choose these two?
For concentration up to 1 hour.
Concentration up to an hour. Okay.
And yeah, I'm gonna do the three of us.
Alright. I couldn't organize them because your cat got into them and...
Oh, she did.
I figured it wasn't worth setting them all
warned
up. No, yeah.
I said.
So you're not, in fact, frightened. However... Oh, wait. I see concentration.
Which one was it? Was it the gray one?
I don't remember, honestly. We never used concentrating.
Oh, I'm saying the cat.
None of you guys ever concentrate. Oh, yeah, it was the
The
gray
gray
one.
cat. She is a scamp.
You are concentrating on that Pass Without a Trace. You're not frightened. So, how do you cast Pass Without a Trace?
Well, I think I'm going to Do I see any mistletoe or spruce near me?
Make a nature check.
That isn't on fire.
Well,
What? I mean, yeah, you don't see a ton of vegetation. You do see on the
Well-
ground there are dead leaves.
that's a 9 plus something ridiculous.
Spruce and what was the other one?
Spruce
Mistletoe.
or mistletoe. And it's 14. Not as.
Unfortunately, you don't find any spruce or mistletoe.
Then I guess I will reach into my component pouch and pull out a pinch of mistletoe ash.
Okay.
And I'm going to sort of like whisper into it for a minute and then go, oh! And sort of like sprinkle it in the vicinity of the three of us so it kind of like
Vibrant
showers over.
purple and blue sparkles like erupt out with this little titillation of the professors. It settles around you guys, and despite this vibrant sort of color, as those sparks fade, you guys feel enshrouded in darkness. You feel very hidden.
Come along then.
Which way are you going? Okay. Oh, right. Okay.
Or, sorry. Looking at the map.
Take a couple steps forward.
See if the spell is working properly.
Sure. Make a perception check.
I assure you it is.
I didn't say anything.
Well, that's not good. Good thing I have Buko stuff onto that.
Yeah.
So that is going to be an 8.
An 8. You seem pretty hidden.
Going to do step here.
Okay. Getting around to that side and getting a little closer to the hill, you do see in front of this creature, there is this dark purple and black kind of smoky portal with this bit of kind of wavering energy around it, looking fairly similar to the portal that you guys were swallowed up by.
I think that might be our way out.
Excellent deduction. You would get a gold star in my class. But we are not in class, so let us keep moving.
Testy.
Walking around now, getting a little bit further to the side, you can make out elements of a face. Severe, incredibly high cheekbones, this almost like alabaster white. Unclear actually if it's either a mask or a face. The eyes are closed currently. It's standing. You see very, very faint the chest rise and fall. It is breathing. Does not seem to be aware of your presence.
What can I see? What is here? Is that just
Just stone, elements of stone. You see now getting around the side closer, this is the portal.
okay?
Directly in front of it. And so stepping a little bit further now. Need all of you guys to make stealth checks, although I'm guessing it does not see you.
This is plus 10 to whatever
Yeah.
you roll.
Oh, fantastic!
23 is 10.
3 plus 10, so 33
I might fuck us.
for Rhea.
18.
Okay. Nice, an 8.
I ended up getting a 16.
16, okay. You guys are not the stealthiest. You're walking through, and there are broken bits of branch and stone. And so as you walk, there are sounds of footfalls. However, there is also fire burning all around you. There is this cold wind that's going by. As far as you can tell, this creature is not reacting to you guys. And you are now where you should be within kind of a sight line of it. But its eyes remain closed.
So as we've been walking, it just seems kind of like the aimless forest without much of a path aside from this.
Yeah, so far you haven't seen much. You can see in this particular clearing there is this large kind of what looks like maybe like a moose's skull. You've passed elements of rock and here and there, maybe like a dried out pond, but not a lot of civilization now. There's the cat.
Wildcat appears.
Wildcat appears. What are you guys doing?
I think I'm gonna like cast my gaze in the direction of this figure.
Okay. Make a perception
And
check.
see, like, have I seen any sort of creature like this in my studies or in my storied history?
Okay.
That's
This is actually then going to be a history check if you're
Okay.
looking for it based off history.
That's probably better because that's one of those ridiculous numbers that I have. So 15.
15?
A 6 roll.
You see on its chest, this like bone white skin, there is a kind of brand of a black chalice. And thinking back to it, you know that, or you've read that Miracle, the god of death, brands his sort of conquered enemies thusly, and creates these things called angels of death. They are used as guardians, as vanguard, as sort of champions within his army. You would imagine that this is probably an angel of death. You, in your studies, would know that they have this ability where if you make eye contact with one, it can basically explode your heart. Oftentimes they bear symbols, magical weapons, or things that are signs of Miracle's favor.
Careful now. Don't make eye contact with her. She's quite deadly.
What, like a gorgon?
If that's what you want to call it, then sure. Just don't look at it.
Alright. Then what are we to do about it? It's blocking the way out.
Well, are we trying to go out now?
You tell us.
I dare say that would be quite a quick mission if we were to come and go without having done anything of much substance now, would it?
Fair enough. Would
Not
you like
enough
to leave
laughter.
then?
We need
Let
a
us
more-
continue on.
More laughter, more smiles. You're not smile enough.
Give me a reason to smile, then I'll start.
Well, just being alive a reason to smile.
You guys continue to
Not
walk
dead
past
yet.
it.
Perhaps we should find that singing fellow once more to lift your spirits.
Nah, nothing I like listening to.
But that seems like a problem with you.
So you guys continue to progress, and as you do, there doesn't seem to be any sort of note. And you wonder maybe this figure, maybe it's there to guard this portal, specifically. That being said, you guys can walk by it without issue. It doesn't seem to be reacting to you. And you've now passed by.
Without a trace. Just being a
So, you guys make it past. What do you want to do?
The stone that it's standing on, are these like entrances or just the
Just kind of
stone?
crags within the actual structure. It's sort of this crumbly gray rock that rises up and then has a plateau at the top, about 15, 20 feet up.
The gray rock itself, does it look like stonework or is it just natural?
Do you have stone cutting?
I do.
You can roll a
because
check
I
on
am
that.
dwarf.
This
Yeah.
guy's trying to cut some stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I dwarf.
Gotta do it for you
do.
since you can't do it this time.
That is, you're going away for today.
Not a
You're
cookie,
coming
bro.
out.
There you go.
All right,
Retire
but
the
that's
dice.
okay because I got the stone cunning. So, cigarettes.
She's gonna come right over because she smells my food, so I'm gonna seal
Not
it.
for you, kitty.
So that is going to be a 16, so an 8.
That's awesome. With the 16, you've never seen a stone like this. The elements within it, you can see that there are traces of iron. You can see some green oxidization of copper. You've never seen it in proportions like this. And looking down and kind of getting into the soil and looking at sediment and pebbles, none of these rocks are familiar.
I don't know what I expected from another plane of existence.
Kind of shake off the stone from me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a perception to see if I can find a path that might lead us in a better direction,
Sure.
or even footprints for the singing gentleman. That
Survival
we-
check.
So, what exactly
hit you
is our
upside.
goal for...
Would you like to ask Abernathy?
Yeah, I think... Is that a thing I can do now that he's gone?
You have the
We
sending stone.
Oh yeah, we have the... I'm like, oh, should have had a V8.
Not sponsored. Don't know if we can clear that, but all right.
Yeah, not sponsored by the alphabet or
The number systems.
The number
Sure.
system.
I'm in the. Excuse me, Abernathy.
You say into the stone.
Yeah.
You hear on the other end, a little faint and kind of groggy. Yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, Professor.
Have I awoken you from a nap?
There was a little bit of a feedback problem. Are you guys okay on your end?
At the moment, yes. We are in an awfully dreadful forest. It's burning everywhere. Angels of death. It seems like
A perfect vacation home.
He's bright and
not
cheery.
quite what he said, but...
What who said?
Oh, I forget that you can't hear. Your hired goon, Harbach? Yes, that's the one. He...
A very capable soldier. I would show him a little bit of respect. He will keep you safe. You said Angel of Death.
Yes, what I suspect to be one. Of course, I've never seen one in person, only in my studies, but I am quite certain that that is what I am gazing near. Because, of course, as you know, one should not look directly at the angels of death, lest you wish to die.
Perhaps. That sounds logical to me. I would progress out of this area, see if you can't find a tear or a portal or something.
Oh, well, we
through
have found a portal. It is being...
Well, go through that then.
Well, there lies the rub. As you may well surmise, the Angel of Death is guarding said portal. So perhaps we should look for alternative means of egress?
Feel free to do so, but if you're not back in about 2 hours, then you're not coming back at all. So if it is a nearby resource, I would try to find a way to circumvent that angel and progress onwards.
Right then.
You said Angel of Death.
Yes.
Do you have any weapons made of obsidian?
I'm like, does anyone have any obsidian on them?
No,
Oh
I've
yes, I absolutely carry obsidian all the time.
She beat me to the punchline.
You're being sarcastic right now.
Oh,
It's not quite helpful.
nothing gets past you.
Unfortunately, it seems that our two well-trained soldiers, as you said, were not so well-trained as to prepare with their obsidian weapons.
I don't own obsidian weapons.
Well, then perhaps you should invest in it before you make such dangerous journeys.
Listen, my weapon is fine. I
Perhaps
know he's talking
you
about
want-
you, Whitley.
My pay grade, I can do such things. However, pay grade not so good, so...
Remember that I am not the one paying either of you. I am simply here as a curious observer.
Oh yes.
Well, then tell us what we are to observe. It sounds like we do need to go through that.
Well, after conferring with Abernathy, we do in fact need to find our way through that portal there within the next 2 hours, or else we will be left behind.
You're still holding the stone, right?
Yeah.
You hear, not left behind, trapped forever.
I was trying to be a little more poetic than that, but yes, we will not be able to return, so chop chop.
I'm gonna hit my warhammer against the ground, and it's gonna turn into a javelin.
Okay.
Recasting it to turn it into a different weapon.
Okay, you tap it, and the shadows that form the edges of this battle hammer shift down to the bottom, and it elongates into a javelin.
Oh. So how do you think we go through this?
Well,
Seems our good man has more information, perhaps?
are you asking me what I think of how we should deal with the violent creature of death?
Yes.
Not how deal, but
I'm not quite sure if you two have noticed.
what word am I
but
looking for? I'm looking for.
I am not suited for fighting.
I'm looking for. You have a big brain. You supply how we fight the thing. We fight the thing.
Well, To start, I would take out your obsidian. Oh, wait! You don't have any.
It's not good
Let
look for
me
you.
see if I can resolve this issue.
It's not good look for you, this
I'm gonna,
sarcastic.
like, turn away from them and pull out my spell book and start
Flipping through it. Okay.
flipping through the page.
You guys hear this as pages start to turn.
I'm going to
He's taking a right.
actually do this.
Is what this guy does. He's smarty.
As the professor looks through his book,
He does his thing. And then we stand and we wait, and we do the thing later. It's what we prefer.
is there any preparation that you're making for whatever it is that you guys are about to do?
I am
Prepared as we're
going
going in.
to. See.
What are you thinking? This is the problem with having 17 spells.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I feel bad.
Oh, that won't work. I say. Oh no, that won't work.
Just continue to flip through.
Yeah.
Is there anything in front of the angel aside from the portal itself, like any markers or anything?
As far as you can tell, no, but it's hard. You can't really see the ground that it's laying on because it is elevated about 15 feet above you. But as far as you can tell, no.
Shall we try surprising it in some way?
Surprising it. Like a birthday party.
Flanking it.
Birthday party sounds good. Let's
In this
throw
situation,
together.
not being a soldier like
It's
yourselves,
probably hard to find a cake.
I would suggest avoiding the combat altogether and not drawing any attention to
Then
us.
maybe someone should talk to us.
That is precisely the opposite of what I just suggested.
You
would
suggested
we-
not to fight her.
Talk to her without a present, that'd be a problem.
Let me be
It's
clear.
not a birthday.
I
But
believe
it just sounds like
that we
such a
should
good
try
idea.
to altogether avoid any sort of interaction with that creature over there, because it will most likely kill all of us in horrible ways.
Most
You're
likely.
a trickster.
So what do we do instead?
Is that the impression that I've given off?
You're a mage. Mages are mostly tricksters.
I'll have you know that I am one of the eminent scholars at the Bright Academy. So,
How illuminating.
that was quite clever for you.
The point I was trying to get around to is, what if you made something to distract its gaze?
Well, seeing as it hasn't moved to any of us and noticed anything, I would guess that it would not be quite drawn to anything that wasn't of immediate interest to its purpose, which seems to be to guard that little portal over there that we need to go through. So, I
Are there any
suspect that wouldn't
skeletons
work.
or dead body parts around? You can keep going.
Make a perception check.
I'm gonna continue. Oh, maybe
I'm getting crap today.
What was that total?
That is going to be...
Why are you calling him Gunter?
Banishment.
going to be
Okay. With an 8. Looking around again, you see this moose skull, but outside of that, no bodies, no... It's hard to tell. I mean, there are charred leaves everywhere, there are broken sticks, and elements of struggle, perhaps. I would say no real bodies. It's hard to make out too much on the ground.
Oh, here it is. Oh. Well, I have one potential. However, it is no guarantee by any means, and it could inadvertently result in our immediate death. So Shall we try it?
I leave this every day. Let's get a move on.
Splendid. And I'm gonna shut my book, and I'm going to pull out a fresh flower
Okay.
from my component pouch.
In response to him, I'm gonna hold my weapon and I'm gonna cast a spell myself. I'm gonna cast Armor of Agathis.
Okay, sure.
On myself.
And so as you grasp your weapon, some of the shadow elements crawl across your arms and congeal into this sort of almost plate armor that then just fades into nothing, it seems.
I'm gonna pull out the flower. Now, I must warn you, as soon as I begin this, our cloaks for you lay people will be removed, and then we may in fact draw this creature's attention. So I would ask that stay low for the moment. Still, don't stare. Never stare. We like living. And then I'm going to whisper again, and then go,
And you hold the stem of the flower so that the flower is kind of like a wand.
yeah, and I'm gonna sort of fling it in the direction of the Angel of Death,
What are you casting?
and I'm casting Banishment.
Fantastic. Okay. What is the DC on that save that I have to make?
Let's see, it is.
I think it's 17.
Charisma save, and my charisma is one of the not as ridiculous.
I think I'm pretty sure it's
still
17.
It's still your spell save. Whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Oh, it's my spell save. Yeah, so that's still a ridiculous number. That's a very ridiculous number.
Isn't it 17?
My spell save is, in fact, 17. Yes.
Okay. There is this of light, and all of a sudden this creature, there's just like a single feather that kind of flutters down and falls, and there is no angel. How long does that last for?
Concentration up to a minute.
A minute.
I start charging forward and
Okay.
I yell, "Take this as an opportunity!"
All right, athletics check.
Certainly
That is
shall. We have
fairly
1 minute to reach that portal.
You run and kind of get 2 feet up, and the rock underneath your feet crumbles,
Wait.
and you
Oh,
slide
never
down. What are you guys doing? That's 6 seconds right there.
Set it up as well, I guess. Can you acrobatics instead of athletics?
Go ahead.
I can cast non-concentration still, so I'm
Okay.
going to...
18. Without too much trouble, you see as Harbeck slides down the rocks, you kind of run up and plant your foot in the one jagged piece that remains from the step that crumbled, and just leap up onto where this is. And you see right in front of you, swirling and pulsating with the light that makes you feel vaguely nauseous, this portal.
You want us to go through?
Yes! That is why I cleared the way for us.
So you are now up
Okie
here,
dokie.
you are still at the base, you are all the way over here.
I'm gonna
18 seconds has passed.
I'm gonna start to put some pep in my step
Okay.
and
I'm gonna
Athletics
hurry
and
on
acrobatics check to get up this 15-foot kind of stone.
probably.
What are you doing?
Please be nice. I'm gonna get up and kind of brush off and say "shut up" to my hammer, and then I'm going to try to climb up again.
Okay.
I hope it's a 10 to.
You are going away.
As you take you kind of tell the hammer, shut up, and you go around. The first step that you take, the hammer kind of flickers out for a second, and you feel something pull at your feet, and you tumble down. You hit your face on the rock, and find yourself back down at the bottom.
I got a 10.
10. You slowly climb about 10 feet up. You get your arms up, but there's still a distance to go. At this point, it's been about 36 seconds.
Hurry now! We only have about 30 seconds left.
Listen here,
Take
this
care,
is not
little
the
bad
time
I'm
to
boy.
gonna
know
get
the place.
helped up.
Okay. Without too much effort, with Tina helping you, you do get pulled up onto the top of the surface, and you see this portal now in front of you.
The next to useless, and I kind of push him into it.
Okay. We'll get back to that in 1 second. You're still at the bottom. It's been about
Not the
38
time,
seconds.
nor the place.
I cast fly.
Okay. So you look down and you sort of... How do you cast fly? What does that look like for you?
I'm holding the shadows of my non-existent. Well, actually, sorry. Recast the hammer. So,
Okay.
And then concentrate on it as shadows kind of envelop my hand, and I speak dwarven words for it,
Okay.
and I start floating through the air.
And as you float up, you can see there's a swirling of shadows that seems to almost be like a vortex that lifts you up and gently deposits you down on the top.
And then I'm going to step through.
As you are deposited down, you watch as Rhea just shoves the professor, and he right through the portal. You have this sensation of rapid movement. You feel your stomach rise up into your stomach. You step through right after. Same thing. This as you just get pulled right through, and there is this like you feel your face plastered against you as you move rapidly.
Following behind.
Same exact sensation. All three of you, I would say, disappear off of this world. About 20 seconds after that, this angel figure appears, rapidly looking around. Its eyes now open, just pure black. And a single inky tear kind of runs down.
Oh, she
But you
misses
guys
us.
managed to avoid a pretty serious combat. Well done. Very well done.
She did want a birthday party. You were right.
That's all she really wanted.
Right.
Oh,
We should have surprised.
I wish I
Come on,
brought a
guys.
Before we transition to our
Party.
next scene, big thank you to that would be very first scene was set by @Nina over on Instagram @NIHNAH, and then the singing soldier was written by a prompt from @Pepperina_SparkleGem on Instagram. So thank you guys very much for providing the prompts for that. As you guys you feel your bones turn to gas and your flesh rip into a million shreds of fabric before, with a rapid reassembling, you erupt into the midst of a sunny, warm day. All around you, there is a massive wall of twisted and thorny roots that rise up 50 or so feet, curving inwards, uncomfortably reminiscent of a mouth and teeth. They bind together, allowing plenty of light through, but forming a barrier of sorts that you would not be able to pass through.
Is
you
it
can-
going over us?
Yeah, so it seems to kind of climb up, and then they twist into almost like teeth into a mouth above you.
Pretty much like closing on each other.
Yeah, plenty of light, but the gaps are maybe this wide at most. Very, very thin. Let me just pull up a little bit more appropriate music for this lovely daytime adventure that you guys are now on.
Now we're not in burning hellscape.
Oh,
Yet. But with the wind
Maybe
that passes
we're
through,
still in burning hellscape, but like an hour earlier.
who knows?
We'll see.
However,
it's like it's fine.
you do see, standing in front of you now, hunchbacked, wearing a gray cloak with the kind of cowl itself pulled back, a turtle. Caked in grime and dried blood. The hood is down. You can see it's like a bald head with these wrinkled, aged eyes. He has a pair of daggers at his side, and a large sack over one shoulder. The other arm is helping a wounded tiefling along. Seems to regard all of you. They're like frozen mid-step.
Hello, gentlemen. Hello.
And who are you lot then?
Well, we shall be brief. I am Professor Warudo of the Bright Academy. These are my associates. They are here as my
Looser than
protection. Might I ask, where are we right now?
The two look at each other. I don't really know the Bright Academy. The two of you are... Three of you are... and looking around, you guys are kind of like... It seems like almost in like a maze formed by these hedges.
Oh, I hate mazes.
You're in Kirim.
Kirim. Is that a place I've heard of before?
No.
I've never heard of that.
Is that some sort of a kingdom?
It's a barony, technically, yeah. But we're in a bit of a rush. We've taken some things from some bad people, and we're on our way to give them to some good people.
Oh, well, bad and good are quite subjective. How are we not to know that you, in fact, are the bad people who have taken something?
You're awfully wordy.
The turtle kind of hefts this sack, which jingles with like the sound of coins on coins. Well, we just told you. We did just take something, but it's from the wrong sort, from the Baron. And we're going to disperse it amongst the more common people once we escape this. And he sort of casts his hands about.
And how, might I ask, do you plan on escaping this?
We know the way. We've run into some problems, though. And the tiefling now speaks up a little bit. Yes, we've had some problems. It's almost out of spells myself. I'm quite hurt. And she pulls up the little bit of cloth that covers her leg. You can see it's pretty badly mangled. Not broken, but certainly like lots of flesh has been kind of torn aside. Has been kind of pressed back down.
Well, if you all know the way out, perhaps we could come to an arrangement. I'm going to pull out a potion of healing. Mind if we follow you?
That would be actually very, very appreciated. And she takes it, pops the cork, and just chugs the whole thing. And you watch as elements of the flesh braid themselves together. And it does look kind of red and swollen, but it is significantly more healed. Actually, a little bit more healed. Not terribly significantly. But it does seem to help. She wipes the excess off of her mouth. Thank you very much. Nifa, and this is Neelix, the Grey Taker, if you know who he is.
Positively delighted, however.
Never
narrow.
heard of you.
Well, neither here nor there. We need to progress on. There are some obstacles in our way, and that's where we really need help.
And you expect us to be the help?
Sounds like a party. Let's go.
And they
Know the way out.
the turtle kind of helps the tiefling along, and they begin to progress forward.
Well, I suppose we have no choice but to follow them.
I'm gonna
No, you
float
had the
on
right
al-
idea. Let's
on
go.
along because I still have fly.
Sure,
For
yeah.
the next 10
You're just kind of
minutes.
floating along, and every now and then you see the turtle kind of cast a glance back at you. But you guys walk. Probably about 10 minutes until you get to this first area. You guys doing anything in the meantime? And what is your marching order? Let me get... I don't have a turtle, as it turns out, because, you know,
Turtles are tough.
they are tough. However, we will have this turtle. Will be this gigantic orc.
I feel like
And...
they would be first.
Let me over here.
Steve Orkle.
And this bramble kind of maze is about 15 feet wide. So you can walk 3 across if you would like. But they're leading. Who's following?
I will be
Concentrating.
following close behind, kind of in the air. Not close enough to the ceiling that I'm going to be, you know.
Yeah, it's about 25 feet up. So you have
Oh,
plenty
you
of
said 10 minutes though?
sorry? About
For
10
how-
minutes to walk, yeah.
All right. Well, then it's not going to matter by the end of it because
Sure.
fly only lasts for 10 minutes, anyways.
You like gently float down right as we get
And
to
then
where we
like
can
this.
Probably take up the rear, yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys progress through this maze. You come upon this narrow stretch of path with these sort of vines, and the vegetation changes very subtly. Give you guys a little visual reference here.
Visuals.
I'm going to change my weapon to a axe.
Okay. And worth noting, as you shift it into an axe, you do begin to hear, and there's a moment of relief, actually, these sort of whispers coming off of it again.
Welcome back.
It responds to you. Let's see here.
Just have to trip me like that.
You hear it say, essentially, that you didn't need to make a smart comment. So, looking back, you guys would be actually all the way back over there, off of this map. This is kind of what you see in front of you. So there are these massive vines that stick out from the bramble itself. However, not brown and wooden like the others. These have almost a metallic sheen. And looking at them, as you get a little closer, there are facets to it that are extraordinarily sharp. Kind of razor sharp. You can see that there are these artificial structures that appear to be almost like flower boxes, although they have a cover to them. And you can also see just beyond all this, there is this kind of maybe about a foot tall stone bricks that lead to like a flower bed. And there are these bright red, almost poppies that you could see. This guy?
This one.
This one.
Oh, that guy, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I got you. Beyond that, the ground is still just kind of pressed mud. What do you guys want to do?
Can we go under these vines at all? or are they kind of blocking our way?
Each one is about this thick, and they lay on the ground, although every now and then you notice the tip of it just kind of twitch ever so slightly.
Any rocks around that I can pick up?
Yeah, there are pebbles and little bits of stone.
I'm going to pick up a stone and flick it at one of the vines.
Okay. Make a ranged weapon attack. This is your dexterity modifier.
So that is going to be a 13, I believe.
Above a 10. You take the pebble and you throw it, and as you do, it gets to within maybe a foot in the air of one of these vines, and the vine just whips out and slices the pebble clean in half. You see the two little sides just fall apart.
Oh my.
That's not what you want.
So I take it this must be one of the issues that you were speaking of.
The turtle speaks up. Yes, this is a bit of a gardening problem, you might say.
I like you. You're funny.
Does it?
I don't think I've ever been called funny before.
You're funny.
Does it seem like they're being magically controlled?
Make an Arcana check. Good question.
I probably know because that's yeah. Even with my 8, that's a 21.
Yeah. Doesn't seem so. And
I'm off my game today.
looking at this garden, these are all plants that have been bred to be here. Not magical necessarily, but certainly they've been selectively bred to have these qualities, it seems.
Okay. I'm taking out my book again.
I'm just starting to go through every wizard's answer. What are you guys doing?
I'm going to, so we're kind of like right here, and
Yep.
I threw the pebble there.
Yep.
Alright, I am going to bring up my shield and kind of move past the two and get close to the vine
Okay.
and see if it ends out, lashing out at me once I get close enough.
Okay. As you step to within about 10 feet of this vine, there is an element of the earth itself. The mud kind of cascades inwards a little bit, and from the mud rises up this cast iron cauldron. The mud itself kind of bubbling out of it and leaving it clean on the inside. The turtle, you see this turtle, his eyes narrow at it, and he points, kind of like takes one hand off the tiefling and holds the bag and then points at it and says, "You can deactivate it with that. We need to place something valuable within it."
Well, value is, some might argue, subjective, just like good and evil.
Yes, gold would be the actual
Monetary value, of course,
Yes.
of course.
Well, you have a sack of gold, don't you know?
He kind of jingles it again over his shoulder. Yes, but this is for the people.
Well, you're a people.
I'm a turtle.
Well, you are, in the general sense, one who might benefit from some coin at the moment.
Yes, I think we all might, but this is
Well-
not for me.
Yes, but no one is going to get that unless you get it out of here. And right now, it seems that is the most appropriate way to do so.
Make a persuasion check.
Are there any writings or symbols on the cauldron?
Make a perception check, or make an investigation
That's-
check.
25.
25? Okay.
That is going to be a...
You speak words good.
You say things. They sound good.
It's going to be 8.
Okay.
You are on fire.
Not that
tonight.
you can see. It seems to be kind of a blank cast iron cauldron, fairly cheaply made. But there is this, it's incredibly clean, and that would lend you to believe that it's probably magical in some way. Professor, you kind of very gently speak to him, and though to most others apparent, it does very plainly seem that you are speaking down to him.
Condescending.
He kind of nods and just says, "Well, I suppose we could contribute half of it, but we still need a little bit more.
How much is needed?
About 500 gold pieces worth
500
of gold."
Pieces?
Is gold itself the only thing that will work?
Well, and the tiefling steps forward now. The way that it actually works is you, when you add the gold in, it will transmute to an acid, and the acid you pour across the vines, and that will disable them temporarily. So gold seems to be what you need. We could try something else, but we risk ruining it entirely.
I'm gonna do kind of one of the glances to my hammer that I'm holding.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
You hear whispers that would tend to suggest that they probably have enough gold in that bag to cover the whole thing.
Fair point.
I'm going to step away from the cauldron and kind of go back and wait for them to hash it out.
Okay. Take a couple steps back. Turtle turns to you. So, do you have anything valuable you would like to contribute to our noble cause?
I am soldier. I have very little of value.
I can attest to that.
Make a persuasion check. I imagine you're not necessarily super... and both of you can make one and take the higher of the two.
It's a natural 20.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take yours.
He regards you and kind of looks at your very worn yet well-kept armor. Clearly you're somebody who takes good care of their things and probably doesn't have enough to really invest in, a lot of other stuff. He nods and says, well... And you can hear all the vines kind of shifting around and moving.
They pulled me off battlefield for this job.
I suppose we can cover the amount. At some point, though, if there is something to be found in here, we would like to recompense our contribution.
It's all yours. Thank you.
Pulls the bag off of his shoulder and sets it down on the ground. It's heavy. And begins to just scoop out handfuls of coins and drops them in. And as they drop, they rattle at first, but after the second handful, you can hear them sound as if they're dropping into liquid. And you look, and as he drops them in, they kind of convert and break down into this greenish sludge. And after he drops close to 500 gold pieces in, there is this sort of cauldron full of this bubbling acid, and the smell changes too. It's no longer iron. You smell this almost... acrid, very much like the tail end of like a skunk sort of spray. Pretty uncomfortable smelling. However,
Are these plant things digesting the metal? Is that what's happening?
the cauldron
the
seems to
silver.
be
The
digesting the metal.
Yeah.
But you now have a vat of acid.
Well, shall we?
And you see the turtle who's still holding up the tiefling somewhat. If somebody could pick it up and administer it to the base of these vines, we could progress on our way.
I look at the both of you.
I'm going to step forward,
expectingly.
and
You'll-
I'm going to dismiss my hammer at the moment.
Okay, you open your hand in the shadows, around. You hear this faint kind of whisper of goodbye.
Oh,
You want hands?
Yeah. I
I like-
don't want to drop this.
Jab the rapier into the dirt.
Okay. Right, and without too much trouble, you guys don't have to roll for it. It's not too heavy. You pick it up, and you pour it onto the first vine. And there is this kind of hiss as the vine itself writhes and wreathes. And as it hits the ground, you can see it slices deep into the mud. But then it kind of twitches and then falls still.
Do we have a lot of time, or...
Let's keep moving. Let's go. Let's
And you
go,
guys
let's go.
continue to move, and you repeat it again, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. And without too much trouble, you guys make your way past the alchemist pot and the things that it bears. They follow you a little bit behind. And it does take her a little bit. She's limping, and to kind of hoist her over each one takes a second. But you guys do get through. You step forward and now get to this wooden box. It's maybe about this tall off the ground. Seems like it's probably hollow.
I do summon my rapier back.
Okay. All of a sudden, from where it is back in the dirt, it disappears and is right back in your hand.
and then I'm going to resummon my weapon as an axe.
You go like this, and this axe appears, and you hear as it swirls into existence. Oh, hi.
It hasn't been long. You don't have to greet me every time.
You know that it will.
This
What
whole
is it for?
thing, how you say, you form a bond with your weapon. You talk to it. You tell it the
Wonderful.
stories.
Yes.
Like your book.
Somehow I think that is a little different.
You have no idea.
You could try. The turtle speaks up. Oh, you could try just throwing his book, and maybe it will come back to his hand.
That sounds like fun.
No,
Let's do
do
it.
not do that. That won't happen.
Oh, well,
Maybe you should get a book that does that then.
yeah, it's a good suggestion. That you
Maybe
should
I
take.
will once we leave this place.
Shall we progress on?
I believe we shall.
You guys continue to walking past this little, what looks like almost poppies that are growing in this little bed. Who is leading the way?
I think I am the cannon fodder in front, as always.
Roll a dexterity saving throw. As you take your first step past this wooden box, you feel underneath the mud something depress ever so slightly.
Is it contested?
Nope.
Okay. Because
Hey, 19! I'm not
As
dead.
the wood splinters open and this huge spear jabs out, you just fling yourself forward, landing in the mud, but avoiding the spear that just jabs out to the space
oh my,
that you were
watch
just
out
in.
for that.
It
Thank
digs into the actual vines right here, and you can see now that you really look at it, there is a point where there are like several puncture marks within the vines. But it slowly kind of retracts itself, and the door doesn't seem to shut because it is splintered open. But you do notice elements of the wood itself beginning to kind of regrow.
Okay. I'm going to take my shield and put it at a forward position to the box.
Okay.
Kind of make sure. I do have a...
Is it coming out of the box or is it coming out of the vine?
It comes out of the box into the vines and then retracts into the box.
I have the... I think it is Shield Master feat that allows me to take a reaction when I take half damage
Yep.
to forego that damage.
Yep.
So I'm going to kind of shield up and go,
You want to look for any pressure plates or reactions?
This is kind of my thing. And the turtle gently kind of lets go of the tiefling and makes sure that the tiefling is supported by the wall, and then steps forward.
Step into his place and like kind of.
Kind of leans down, and you look as he looks into the mud and pokes around. You need to watch where you're going. And he scoops some of the mud aside, and you can see there is this kind of very flat wooden pressure plate. Just step over it, and you'll be fine. And he helps the tiefling across, just stepping over. The thing doesn't protrude out, and you would imagine looking across, it's probably the same thing.
okay. I take a hefty, as best I can, step over it.
Yeah, it's rough for you. You're pretty short, but you do manage to step over it. It's not too big as this
You're
plate.
good, old man. You gone? You up this?
I believe I can.
You let me know.
I'm gonna, like, hike up my copious, delicate, fancy robes.
Which are, slightly muddy. Oh, like a big step over. Does the professor wear underwear?
For this he would be.
For this, okay. His combat trousers.
Yeah,
Combat drawers.
he's going out, so he's like, oh, I should probably wear my fancy trousers.
There you go. Okay, so you see the fancy
Seeing
trousers
my
as he
dear
steps
friend
over.
Abernathy, I must
You
look
guys
my best.
make your way past, and I would imagine step over the same trap in a mirror-like way. And I would say Neelix sort of leans down and swipes the mud across and shows you again a very similar setup. As you guys pass that, though, behind this, you do notice right about here there is a totem pole, and you can see from the bottom to the top there is this sort of bear, fairly simply carved, and a gorilla. And then at the very top, a falcon with its wings kind of spread out.
Very interesting combo.
It's in this area. This seems to each obstacle indicates an answer of some kind to the next. So I would keep these in mind. I actually remember these. This is not too hard.
So you've been this way before.
Once or twice, yes.
I'm gonna be like, what's up with this? What's up with these guys? And they've been in here and they're stealing shit.
This is internal monologue.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This is what the professor is thinking.
Make
right
an
now.
insight check.
Like, what are these two up to, really? And I'm gonna they are probably bad guys because it's a 20.
20. I mean, they are carrying this money. You have noticed a couple things about Neelix over this period of time. He does seem very adept at checking for traps. You see the daggers on his waist. He seems like probably he can handle himself in a fight. For a turtle, he moves pretty gracefully. Not gracefully by any stretch of the imagination, but for a turtle, very gracefully. Nephra, something about her actually reminds you just ever so slightly of Harbeck. There is an element to her that you feel this kind of arcane energy that seems to sort of pulse off of her almost. Although she is quite hurt. They do seem to be telling the truth somewhat. They have stolen this from some bad people. They probably, it would seem like, are a little bit more self-invested than they're letting on. But they're not necessarily lying to you.
Well, I can't fault them for being invested in themselves. I think to myself.
Okay.
You didn't hear that because I didn't say that.
What?
Shall we progress on?
Didn't hear that.
Lead the way. We come up from the back.
All right.
Let's go.
They lead you on another 15 minutes or so, and you come to a couple branches, and deftly they guide you the right path every time. Not, I guess you wouldn't know that it's the right path, but you don't fall into any traps. Eventually, you do come across this larger clearing, probably about 50 feet around. Brambles go all the way around it, but there are these wicker animals that dot the landscape. You see roughly 6 of them, I believe. But from left to right in kind of a circle, a rough circle now that you see. And it is, it's like wicker material that's been painted in a very, very dull pastel green paint that's kind of worn away over time. But there's a bear, a falcon, a rhinoceros, a horse, a goat, and then some other kind of bird that is a little bizarre looking, but maybe an owl.
Where's that gorilla? Wasn't it a gorilla?
Beyond that, you do see there is a stone wall,
bear.
On the totem pole.
Yeah.
which is carved to look as if it too has been woven together like vines, but it is stone.
So I'm making a wild assumption here that we have to stay near the animals that were on the totem pole.
Oh, that's a good assumption, but no. If we can break the 3 animals on the totem pole, this stone wicker, it's called, will crumble into dust, and we can progress on our way. Very simple, actually. I would advise, don't break the other ones, because then they seem, and he kind of turns to his right, and there is, like, every now and then you're hearing large bits of movement around the outside of this maze-like structure. You'll hear footsteps or kind of brush being disturbed. They seem to become real, and a rhinoceros in this enclosed of a space is not something that I would like to deal with,
Oh heavens!
even in the best of circumstances, of which these are not. So, remind me again. They were, I know, a gorilla and a falcon. And the third
bear.
one,
You missed the bear.
a bear. Okay.
The cute and cuddly one.
Anybody to do the honors?
Bring my axe and I go towards the closest one that was on the totem pole.
Okay.
Would that be what's closest to us? The bear?
Closest to you would be a bear.
The bear. Okay. I'm gonna go up to the bear.
So I just have to break the vines.
The wicker material that forms them, yes. Just break it in half or whatever it is you do.
Alright, I'm going to kind of gently first to make sure like I don't break anything within.
Okay.
If there's, a trick to this. But I am going to just try to get the outside of it.
Okay, yeah, make an attack roll. And this could be at advantage because it is standing still and it is a wicker animal.
I will take the 10.
Sure, that's rough.
That's okay. I'm good at attacking. So that is going to be a 17.
17. With the 17, you take this axe and you gently kind of chip away parts of the side. And as you do, there's nothing inside of it, but you notice each chip that you take, little cracks begin to form in this stone kind of vine wall that is blocking you. By the time you kind of break it down to the legs, there's a little damage to that wall.
Okay. Now it just seems like on the wicker itself, or if I did more damage to the statue itself, would it happen?
It seems like the damage to the stone wicker wall is corresponding to the damage that you're inflicting on the statue.
Okay. I'm going to go for a heavier attack towards the snout.
Okay.
That is going to be
That
a
hits.
24.
You slam into the snout of the bear and bisect the entire head down through the neck and through the shoulder. And as the wicker peels apart and it like unravels a little bit like a basket with the main part that's been snapped, you see just like puffs of smoke as like little bits of stone crumble out of the actual wall.
All right, next one.
And you go up and you hit the falcon.
Yep.
Okay. You don't need to roll for it.
With some sort of falcon.
You manage to destroy the bear, the falcon.
Great stretch.
And while you're doing that, as you do that, give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the stats for Nephra. Nephra is just going to point at the final one, the bear, or the gorilla, and send out this bolt of force energy that you would recognize as Eldritch Blast. And as it crumbles into this wicker thing, the entire structure just explodes. The wall behind just billows out into dust as if somebody had like struck the side that you guys were on. And as the dust settles, you can see beyond it just more of this maze that continues onwards.
Okay. I raise an eyebrow at Nephrin with that Eldritch Blast that she just did.
Yep, she kind of withdraws her hand again.
I'm going to whisper to my axe. It's like, can you tell what kind she is?
Not yet. She gestures to all of you. A little bit of help then.
Well,
Neelix kind of goes back and scoops underneath her and supports her again.
Onward.
I will take point again. Meat
right.
shield for the win.
You guys continue a little bit further forwards. You end up getting to this area that is much more rotund. And in the middle of this, as you approach, you first feel the wind shift ever so slightly, and you feel this kind of cold, and you feel nausea begin to kind of overtake you ever so slightly. And visual reference here. Visuals. I actually have 5 maps. I forgot. 5 visuals. Significantly fewer than I normally. It's not 23 like I normally have to bring to Alberon because you guys just goof around too much.
it's a one
We
shot.
like to mess
It's
it
a
up.
one shot.
It's a one
folks.
shot.
North is here. So you guys approach this.
Joe gets to cut loose a little.
Yeah, oh, it's great. I don't have to prepare anywhere near as heavy as I do for this other thing. So you guys walk into this sort of rounded...
direction?
Yeah, from this area. So you guys are coming in this way. And you see a couple
Solid base.
of things. You can see that there is, again, this dark portal of swirling energy, similar to the ones that you've seen. You feel more nauseous this time as you draw closer. And from beyond it, you could almost swear you hear waves. Off to the right, you can see there's like a stone over here. You have Neelix and Nephra, who at this point kind of look at each other and then look back to you. This is pretty much where I think we part ways. We have a way that we need to go, and it kind of certain company only is sort of allowed. So
What do you mean by that?
I mean that we've never worked with you all before, and we're going to leave here. If you want, you can pick your way through the vines and make your way back to Old Salsport, or, you know, I'm not really sure what you lot are here for.
Professor, we have an hour. We've spent enough time here.
Perhaps we should be making with the getting lost.
How much time have
progress in
we
this direction.
done in the maze?
Did any of you guys take like Savant or anything that would give you access to the amount of time? Keen Mind.
Not me.
I have.
Did you take Keen Mind? Keen Mind is the one you would need to
I
take.
don't think I have.
Okay.
Mine.
Make an intelligence check.
Then quite well studied in the effects.
That's a
of time.
5.
Man, you know, the thing about time and space travel is that it's really hard to stay oriented as to where you are. Somewhere between 2 and 5 hours, probably.
Straight intelligence, it's a 20, not natural.
It's been about an hour and 23 minutes, give or take.
Perhaps we should be with the really movings.
My
Well,
armor
yes,
of
you're
Agathis
right.
is gone at this point.
Yep.
I am all the sads.
Just a little sad. Mildly sad.
I'm gonna pull out the sending stone again.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Abernathy.
Yes.
We've made our way through some sort of labyrinthian vine structure. Seems a number of enchantments grown into the vines themselves. Suffice to say, we are searching for the next portal and could perhaps use some otherworldly assistance from you.
A magical hedge maze of sorts, you said.
Yes.
I wonder if you're not in Derby. That's fantastic. If so, the scope of this experiment is significantly larger than I believed.
I believe the turtle gentleman that we've met.
A turtle?
Indeed.
Fantastic!
Yes, quite. He was very helpful in making our way through here without having to expend one of our, I glance over, expendables.
Yes.
I take offense to that.
Well, I'm glad that all of your spells are intact. You may need them yet. Do you see any method of egress similar to the portal you took before? Have you noticed any crystals or artifacts worth taking?
Have I?
As far as you can tell, you haven't really been looking for any, but
I'm gonna look around when he says
Okay.
that.
you look around, you notice that Neelix and Niffer are gone. There's a rock in the mud.
Are we making with the leaving or a no?
Hold on a moment. I'm going to study the way that they went.
Okay, make a perception. Make an investigation check. You walking over there to really look?
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, because it seems like they just disappeared.
Yep.
Maybe we should inquire how much time we have left
Said
before we go knocking about.
investigation? Well, my passive investigation is a 20.
Okay.
But my
Nice.
roll
Sure.
was
Passive perception is a 20.
no,
No.
both.
Oh, okay. Passive
My passive
investigation,
perception is
never heard of it.
actually a 23.
That's crazy.
Good lord.
So your investigation is
My investigation is, in fact, a 20.
a 20.
Yes.
Okay. You do see that there are these footprints that lead up to an element of the vine wall right here, and they seem to vanish almost mid-footprint into the vines. You feel across kind of elements of it, and there are thorns, but you don't find any cracks, any kind of handles, anything loose.
Most interesting.
Yeah, even with the 20.
Fellows, it would
Aye.
appear that there's some sort of teleportation here. However, I don't seem to see any sort of mechanism by which to activate it. However, if you notice here, it seems as if our two friends have somehow made their way through this as their egress.
I'm going to step over.
I mean, you're the brains of this operation, so I'd assume you'd be
Clearly.
able to figure it out.
Well, I will try my best to figure it out.
Question though, is this more important than us leaving?
Well, us
Or-
leaving may have to do with this.
May.
You kind of cast your glance again to this swirling portal of dark energy that is similar to the ones that you've stepped
Oh.
through.
Never mind. Never mind. Let us use that portal instead.
It's what I thought, but you
As
know,
lovely as this maze
those of us of smaller minds had to defer to you.
I feel like in all of our one-shots, Matt's characters just get talked down to. That's no matter what the circumstances. Gunter and Gunter's One Time Madness was like a coach driver. Okay, so you guys step through this portal.
Yeah, I was stepping through it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Stepping on the beach.
you guys.
Taking a deep breath because I know now, like, and I'm not getting pushed through, so I'm like prepping myself. For
Okay.
this.
You take a couple deep breaths and you step through. And there is this violent, again, this rushing sensation, and this time less like you're being pulled and more like you're falling. And you feel yourself tumble end over end, all of you, until you burst out of the portal and onto this white sandy shore of a beach, the waves lapping at the shore gently behind you. Out in the ocean, through crystal clear waters, you see a small island with beautiful palm trees that cover the sun from directly shining into your eyes. In front of you, frozen, are 4 goblins, all paused in the middle of what they were doing. They appear to be trying to push a statue across the beach. You can see this divot where it's been like slowly shoved through the stand. Towards like a rough construction where a couple of other statues have been kind of gathered and wood leaned up to form sort of a lean-to. Kind of like driftwood chunks that have sort of been laid across to make what could pass as walls. And they suddenly just begin to run over to you, a mixture of relief and curiosity in their eyes. And because it is 10:10, we're going to take a quick break right there. Let me set up a couple things. So at the moment it is
I
10:10.
don't like goblins.
We'll be back at 10:25. So we'll see you then. And we're back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us through the break. For those of you just tuning in, this is not Adventures in Alberon, the typical show that we run. This is a one-shot entitled Many Minds, where we have taken prompts from several people within the Instagram community. To sum up the people who have appeared so far, Nina supplied us with the introduction prompt with the dog that returned to its place. We had, for the second one, at Pepperina_SparkleGem, who provided the prompt for the singing soldier at the end of the world. And then briefly after that, we had the adventures of Neelix the Greybringer and Nephra the Broken Tongue, which was given to us by at BenXteen_DND. A couple people who do some really, really cool miniature painting. Definitely check them out. And before we left, we went through a third portal and emerged onto a beach where 4 goblins rushed towards you, seeming both curious and excited. This particular prompt came from at NRD Forge, another couple of people who do some really cool D&D stuff. And this particular scene is called The God of Rock and Ruin. So you burst out of the portal and onto this white sandy beach. Again, you see this small island with the beautiful palm trees just beyond this crystal clear waters. The 4 goblins rush over to you, kind of leaving this humanoid statue that they were lugging, and you can see there's like straps around it and they've been pulling it over. And as they run over to you, they begin kind of like poking you, touching you, sort of prodding at you. And one of them, a little taller than the other ones, maybe a little bit older, maybe this one ripe and old at the age of like 7, opens her mouth to speak. And as she does, you can see half of the teeth in her mouth have kind of rotted away. So it's all just kind of gummy, sort of green and gray gums that go back into the mouth. I got to remember what the accent was for this one. Oh, I'm Gums. These here are some of the family. Oh, man. You want to meet Winky? He's sort of like our leader. But who are you, and how did you guys survive?
I'm gonna...
Just kind of like pulling at your robe ever so slightly.
I'm gonna give like a huge grin.
Okay.
Like, in Goblin, hello, my dear fellows.
And you hear...
How wonderful to find you here.
From Professor Warudo, all of a sudden, this kind of gibbering sort of, just really, really quick enunciated syllables of Goblin.
My eyes are going to dart over to him, extremely like...
She smiles, and in Goblin responds to you. Oh, it's so nice to see you. Welcome. I'm really curious as to how you survived this attack.
And I'm really curious where we are.
Oh, well, right now we are right near the Black Crystal. We're sort of on the Forgotten Shore, if you know where that is.
Black Crystal, you say? The
I'm
Forgotten
extremely
Shore.
uncomfortable right now.
And you guys are just hearing Goblin back and forth between these two. The other ones, you see these 3 heads kind of follow and then go back and forth like they're watching a tennis match between the 2.
And now,
It's
tell
cute,
me,
no?
where exactly is this Black Crystal? And, if I may be so, well acquainted with you, what are you doing right now?
Well, the Black Crystal is a little bit to the north, and you'll want to talk to Winky. He is sort of our leader. He's the wisest, and he also can do magic.
Okay.
And right now we're trying to move this statue over to help build a little bit of our house.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, good luck with your house. Friends, we should go north.
Well, you want to, and he switches back. She switches back over to Common. You'll want to meet Winky. He'll give you a little bit more of a rundown on things going on.
Yes, where is Winky?
Just over there. And she points, and you see there are like 6 or 7 humanoid statues that have all been kind of like put into a line, and there's driftwood that's been leaned up. And you can see there are other goblins kind of shifting about and pulling things together. It's maybe 200 feet further inland, so not quite on the beach. The beach is beginning to transition into very sparse bits of grass and dirt.
why don't you bring us over to Winky?
Oh, beautiful. Come on. And kind of just begins to dart off, stops and turns to make sure you're coming along.
I'm gonna turn to them and say, "We should go see Winky," he says.
I'm going to address the professor in Dwarvish
Okay.
to see if he responds, if he does speak it.
Sure.
I don't like this. I don't agree with this.
I'm gonna be like, "Oh, hold 1 second." I'm gonna...
Pull out your book.
Actually, I don't need to pull out my book for this. I just pull out of my pocket, like, 1 dwarven coin.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna
Cast.
blow into it and comprehend languages.
Okay. So, all of a sudden, you hear this, like, kind of guttural, short, sharp language,
Or actually-
very deep in its tone.
Wait. I use, not comprehend languages, but the thing that gives me comprehend languages based on my class.
Okay.
So, let me look it up real quick.
But for the moment, you hear
Yeah.
these brief, kind of guttural, very, very hearty language shift, and all of a sudden you understand the words. And you hear the very end of that statement. Don't agree with this.
What don't you agree with?
Goblins. Nothing good ever comes from allying with goblins.
I wholeheartedly disagree with you there. See,
It's party, yeah? We should go with the party. I am actually speaking Dwarvish.
I do a disbelief, like,
What? Re-examine my personal biases.
Goblins have a vast culture full of wonderful knowledge and
Vermin.
arcana. Now that is a bigoted statement. Goblins are living in our plane just like the others. They have culture, which, as of right now, let us be honest, you haven't been quite cultured yourself.
As you say this goblin runs back and goes, "All right then, come on!" and kind of gestures for you to come
Yes,
forward.
yes, coming. And I walk off.
She hobbles off, goes towards this thing. Do you follow?
I begrudgingly grumble behind him, going,
Fair.
Culture. I am kicked out of my culture.
we have party.
You guys progress on to the sort of hovel that has been crafted out of these statues. As you get closer to the statues, though, you recognize they're all incredibly realistic. I mean, you see blemishes and veins and just the cloth itself. I mean, it looks incredibly realistic. However, as you get a little bit closer, you see this goblin appear from within this structure. He, let me just pull him up real quick. He has this right ear that looks as if it's been kind of chewed up. And he's wearing elements of leather armor mismatched, and there are strips that have been like torn away and re-sewn on. There are little edges of maybe rabbit's fur that kind of coat the arms. For a goblin, very luxurious. You also notice that his right eye is just constantly twitching. But he just comes up to, I would say, given what he does, and also at this moment, his eyes are bright purple. Just the entirety of his eyes.
I'll have a look at him.
But he would probably approach you, seeing as how you are the tallest, I think, right? No, you're not
That
the tallest.
would be
You.
me.
He would approach you, since you are the tallest. Tell me, what does Winky see? And he kind of comes up, just kind of twitching and pokes you. You are not stone, and you are not one of those terrible things. What are you? Kind of tries to reach up and poke your ear, but can't quite reach.
Rayla. Pleasant to meet you.
Rayla. And you?
I'm gonna say, in Goblin, Professor Warudo of the Bright Academy.
And switches over immediately to Goblin. Oh, I don't really know what a professor is, but that's fantastic.
Yes, and you are Winky. That is fantastic as well.
Well, I didn't really choose the name. It's because of my Twitch, you see.
Yes, fascinating.
My real name
We
is
get to
Goblin.
hear
So,
We're just here.
your friends here, they have brought us to you for the Black Crystal.
Oh, the Black Crystal, yeah.
Yes.
So we want to use that to turn some of our friends back into goblins, and so that they can stop being statues.
Ah, yes, statues. That is quite terrible.
I'd be enjoying my first time on the beach if it wasn't for all these goblins.
It's not so
Where
bad.
exactly is the
Could be
Black
worse.
Crystal?
They could be
Oh,
fighting us.
if you just go a little bit to the north, this is kind of a meadow and a
Go
forest.
smell the trees. I give
Past
you
that way,
this.
there's a little cottage, and
However-
this creature is kind of holed up in there, and she guards it. She has it in the
No, they
fireplace.
fight. They're doing goblin thing. They're speaking
Okay.
with the brain man.
What kind of creature? Have you seen her? Has anyone else
do this,
seen
dwarf.
her?
It's good
Could
for
you
you.
describe her?
We call her the Stony Sister. She's maybe well, your friend over there, the really tall one, and she kind of shifts over.
Ah, you, what is your name?
My name is Rayla.
Yes, Rayla. Probably about 2 feet taller than her. Skin is really, really just mushy and moldy, and she smells quite nice. Like a cross between summer garbage and
It's
like
very
old
rude.
meat.
This whole conversation on site.
But if she looks at you, you turn to stone, and so we haven't really gone to get the
I'm just
gem. It's
gonna-
a little
You
bit
keep
above our
drinking.
skin.
Join
You
the
can cast some
You
magic
tell me how it is.
of the wild variety, and might be able to help a little bit. With your guys' help, we could probably
I'm
get
not
it.
so
Oh,
much for your type of alcohol. It's
Wonderful.
not not my big.
It works.
One teensy
It does
problem.
work. I will give you this.
Who would get
And
the black crystal?
I've
Because
had plenty of my
as
share
I'm
in my time.
guessing now,
Not
Go
me.
for a nice
it would only
mug of
come
mead,
as
but-
one crystal.
Yes, but we
Well,
cannot
we
be
would get
so
it, but maybe
picky,
we
I
could get
suppose.
something else for you that would make it worth your
Fine,
while.
okay.
And if you do need the gem, we just need it to
I
turn
mean, it's not
our
like
people back, and
not
after that,
like
you can have
goblin
it.
can
We'd be happy to be rid of it.
provide substance.
I don't think she can normally do what she does. I think she
Substance,
pulls
is
the
this
power
word
from
I'm
the
looking
stone.
for? Sometimes I get confused.
Then
I
I
learn
would be happy
these
to help you
languages in
and
such
take
piecemeal
this
ways.
crystal, and you
It
may
just sometimes
free your
doesn't
friends,
work.
and we will
You speak dwarfish
take
well
the
for
crystal
now.
away
Oh,
with
well,
us.
thank you.
Thank you, that would be
I
so
learned
Yes,
in the
that would be
trenches.
wonderful.
Many
we would be
sweaters
happy
at
to do
first.
so.
He turns to you guys.
Thank you so much for your help. It means the world to all of us.
What did you just tell them?
We are going to go and help them.
His eyes shift
We
back
have
into like normal
parties.
colors now.
We are getting the black crystal, and we are going to
This-
save their friends who are the stone.
In which point we have party, yes? Yes.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes, then we will party on to the next
And there will be much
destination.
left.
Oh, we are
Black
loves
crystal.
a party.
Yes,
Black
party's
crystal
good.
in tow.
Party's good.
Yes. And we will free them of its dark magics.
By all means, brain force, you go first.
He turns and you hear in Goblin him go, "Friends, we're going to get the crystal," and you hear the goblins just start cheering and cheering.
Yes.
He turns and just says,
All right, can we go?
Yes, let's go.
Oh, lovely.
and he kind of
Honestly,
claps his
party,
hands.
let's- you lead the way, Brayman. Let's go.
Before we go, I'm going to put my axe into the ground for a moment and
Okay.
take my shield and put it on my backpack.
Okay.
Pick the axe back up and turn it into a halberd.
Yeah. You grab the edge of this axe, and after you put the shield on your back, you pull apart and you stretch the length of it, and the two ends of the axe shift into one, and you now hold a shadowy, almost negative energy
Quite
halberd.
fun trick you do.
I guess.
Less of a trick, more of a.
Yeah, heroes. Look at that. We have heroes here. Weird.
And I
Haven't
say
had those in Albron in a
dwarvish
little while.
curse.
Ah, I am not so unfamiliar.
Now,
As you guys are walking and talking,
as we're going, do not look at her because, you know, the rocks and you become stone. Very bad. And I think,
Problematic, yes.
Wait a moment, are we fighting what I think we're fighting?
we call her the Stony Sister.
Large snaky woman?
No.
It seems more like some sort of stone hag, I would surmise.
There are things that she has made into stone around the cabin. She can make them come back. So be very careful.
Surely our 2 soldiers can handle 1 stone hag.
As we're walking, I'm going to reform into a warhammer.
Okay, so again, you kind of twist your hands, and as you do, the halberd blade shifts around. It becomes stone-like, but it's still this negative energy. You hear this whisper of, just decide.
Can't really decide at the moment. I thought halberd. Now I'm thinking hammer. Stones. Crushing. Better.
You always do this.
Well, don't
You do not hear these
sass me
whispers.
right now.
You guys
Don't
progress on your way, and it's probably about a 30-minute walk. And as you walk, Winky expounds upon you the beautiful wildlife, of which you see none. There are little stone creatures here and there. You see a little stone squirrel on one tree. You see a couple of birds. You don't hear other birds. There is no thunder, so let me figure out... Oh, that's not thunder. That's just waves. Let me turn the waves down a little bit.
It is waves.
I am enamored by the scene of waves and beaches because I've never seen them before.
Yeah, sure.
I'm thinking like we've got a time.
Sure. And thinking about it now, I mean, you guys are coming up on about 40 minutes left of this time span that you have.
I'm like,
Once you reach the end of this 30 feet. However, you do end up coming to at the end of a little bit of a meadow, and the sand here has transitioned now almost fully to dirt, although looking into it you can see there is like elements of sand and stuff, and there is like little bits of dune grass rising out. Okay, north is going to be facing me. So it'll be like this. So you guys are arriving from the south over there. But you see in front of you the single log, one-room house, perhaps 12 feet at the tallest. There is a chimney on the most northern side. Yeah, from this direction. You guys could still be a ways off, but you see this. There's a single tree here, and another one back about here. But otherwise, it's kind of like sparse dune grass, with the exception being right here. It grows incredibly thick and tall. You can see that there is a white picket fence, as it were, although the white paint has been mostly washed away. That is this line going around, enclosing this sort of crop of dune grass, it almost seems. There are 2 barrels off to the side. This house itself is wood. That's about all you can see. You do see that there is a stone figure kind of facing the door on this cobblestone path that leads up to the door itself. You don't see a hag or anything of that nature.
I think I'm gonna take out the sending stone
Okay.
and try to contact Abernathy and be like, excuse me, Abernathy, are you there?
Yes. What could I help you with? You're running rather short on time. I hope that this is...
What I was, we found a black crystal, you see.
Fantastic. Please, bring it back at once.
Yes, that is exactly what we are trying to do. However, yes, we are quite pressed for time at the moment. Any suggestions for what?
She's, how do I put this? If the issue is time, I would imagine that you don't have much of an issue.
Well, I suppose you are correct. Let us go then. Ta-ta!
And as you put it away, you hear, lovely hitter. This entire time, Winky has been kind of looking at this, and he goes, oh,
What is that?
What is he
How
called?
do
the little stone that you put away.
explain?
It's a magic rocky talk.
A rock? Can I?
We're pressed for time. We really can't do
I
this.
would
at
love to show you at some other time.
You're just going to go
however.
up, and then as you say another time, it'll go right back down.
But
Yeah,
what
you
if we
can-
die?
Here, have a look.
He takes it.
Am I talk?
No, only work.
And he screams into it. You hear
Okay.
as you take it away, you just hear, what? And it just kind of goes back into your pocket. He seems a lot happier. I will say, though, as he did just scream. You are aware of this kind of vague shifting in shadows kind of around maybe where the windows are over here. Unclear if it noticed you, whatever is within.
Winky, was it?
Yeah.
since we are sneaking up on a possible hostile, maybe you should be a little more quiet.
Oh, quiet. I can be quiet.
At this point, I think I'm knocking on the door.
You look over and you see if you could put yourself right at the door.
What in the hell is he doing?
That was not what I expected.
He's brain the Mac. He's just not so brainy. Methinks
He's gonna get us all killed.
this bozo not so smart. Me thinking.
So you knocking on the door with here. Here we go. This kind of like as something heavy steps across. You hear the wood creaking underneath its weight. As the door kind of the knob fumbles a couple times and then opens wide. You see standing before you a very large.
Oh no.
The price tag off of it probably.
Right.
Thanks, Kamikaze and Davis Square.
Hey.
Really appreciate you guys, and the if you guys need to, you're in the Boston area, you want to find some really cool minis. Kamikaze and Davis Square, awesome selection, great staff. We might actually be playing there live someday, so we'll keep you informed on that. However, you see this. It is this, at some point, maybe human, and you can see that there are elements of kind of like a feminine figure, although it's kind of like grotesque, and the purple flesh has swollen out. Its one big bulbous eye kind of regards you, one much smaller eye kind of seems to be struggling to get around to see you. I need you guys to all roll initiative. This is not a friendly creature.
Oh,
That's rough. Let me get a little bit of combat music going for this.
That's fine.
Knock on door. Stone Witch pops out.
Boy.
Awesome.
Alrighty, where is my
Oh, you wanted to party.
initiative board?
I did.
Yes.
Different
I think
kind of parties.
recognizing that she's not friendly when I open the door,
Yes.
I'm going to use my portent to make her initiative 6.
Okay. Okay. Her initiative rolled was 6. However, that is fantastic. All right. So, anybody roll a natural 20?
Nope.
All right, 25 to 20. Ooh. All right, 20 to 15.
19.
18.
I think I was caught off guard. You stopped me.
What was your initiative?
10.
Oof.
Not bad.
Not the witch. How's Winky doing?
Winky is going at initiative 10.
Woo!
I'm gonna write him as Winks. All right, so Tina, you are up first. What would you like to do? Michael, you are on deck.
How far back are we still? Is that something to determine?
Currently, you are about 30 feet, give or take.
Wonderful. I'm casting Witch Bolt.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about Witch Bolt. I do not know it off the top of my head. Oh, look at that. Right handy.
Right-handed.
So as you extend your hand, there is this beam of crackling blue energy that arcs towards this creature. Make your ranged spell attack.
20. Natural.
Natural 20.
Not natural.
Oh, not natural. Okay.
Dirty 20.
There you go. Dirty 20. So you are currently concentrating. This is frightened, but you are not. If you want to put that on yourself. That certainly hits. Go ahead and roll your damage.
That's a D12 for all you folks at home.
There you go.
9.
9? Okay. You watch as this energy crackles around it, and it seems to kind of twitch back, but the eye just kind of begins to twitch ever so slightly more, and you hear it kind of almost, it's this gurgling sound, it's like a laughter, like a that is your turn.
Yep.
Michael, what would you like to do? Matt, you're on deck.
Alrighty, I am going to, I am going to run forward 5, 10, 15, 20 to get close enough behind the professor, and I am going to cast Frostbite.
Okay.
And for Frostbite, the target must make a Constitution saving throw.
Alrighty. And what is your DC for that?
My DC is, let's see, that's 10 plus my modifier.
10 plus your modifier plus your proficiency bonus, I want to say.
So that is going to be a 19.
That sounds right. Okay, so as you reach out and this swirl of cold energy surrounds it, it does fail. So
Okay.
its
So-
movement is halved.
Let's see. And it has disadvantage on the next weapon attack roll it makes before the end of its next turn.
Okay, so it is not deafened, but this is going to be frosty. So you watch as this cold energy lances around it, and where the lightning is sparking and crackling away, it seems to leave behind these cold patches of skin that, as it swipes and kind of pulls away, like it almost like liquid nitrogen crackles the flesh off of it. You can roll damage for that.
So that is going to be 9.
Nice.
That is going to be a 14.
14, yeah. Doesn't seem it's almost more like it's itchy than anything. Doesn't seem terribly bothered by it. And I would say, yeah, that's your turn.
I'm going to end my turn with a shout for the professor. Get behind me!
You hear from behind you.
I'm going to completely ignore it.
Okay, fair enough. It is now your turn.
Oh boy.
I am going to use chaos.
Okay. Interesting. So you are aware that because it does consider you a hostile, that you are. That changes it. I can't remember how off the top of my head.
Isn't it a minute casting as well?
It is. Yes, it is a minute casting.
Oh shoot!
However,
You're going to be standing there for a minute going, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
so your character would know that. Would you still like to do that? You can
Yeah.
certainly try. Okay.
Oh boy.
For a minute now, you begin to weave the magic together to create this command.
I really hope you have Warcaster.
Yeah. I'm going to say you are concentrating real hard. Again, because of the cats, I kind of don't have it organized the way I would. I'm going to say that you're not charmed, you are concentrating.
I think.
Actually, you know what? To keep it consistent.
There you go.
Is that your turn?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Is that-
You are trying to spirit bomb this creature by slowly weaving together a powerful spell.
Charge.
It is what it is.
Attack.
It is Winky's turn. Oh, let me get Winky.
Winky! We believe in you, Winky.
Good job, Winky.
I actually have a
You
miniature
got this,
for
Winky.
Winky, you guys could have encountered back near Port Quinn, but you did not.
Oh, sad.
So I was able to recycle Winky. Where are you?
That's good. We enjoy Winky.
Yeah. Well, the voice was different back then. But
I mean, I would enjoy him more if I wasn't a dwarf, but, you know, say la vie.
you know what? I don't have Winky's miniature handy right now. So we are pulling out a Cortego. Oh, you know what? No, this guy's little. This works great. Winky is going to move to the side over there. And looking at this situation, and I would say, Professor can't see him. Tina and you can actually see his hands begin to wiggle and his eye begin to twitch ever so slightly more. You can see leaves begin to burst out of his skin a little bit. And he is going to cast. Let me just pull it up real quick.
Got like a passive perception of 20.
Oh yeah, so you see out of the peripheral of your vision this
You
little
are
twitchy
technically
creature begin to wander
concentrating,
up.
So
So I'm like, cool.
you see leaves.
You watch as he reaches within his little leather armor and pulls out this little cocoon, and he just goes ha! And crushes it and tries to cast polymorph. And as this magic kind of arcs out, I need my percentile dice because this is wild magic. Okay. As he goes, ha! These little purple bubbles just burst out of his mouth and kind of pop, and every time they pop, you hear thunder erupt from them. But this spell washes over this creature. It doesn't seem to have an effect, unfortunately. Winky is then, you see his face, immediately his ears droop back, and he goes, ah! And just immediately, he's the last 5 feet of his movement to try to get to a more hidden spot. That brings us to this creature. So,
Oh boy.
the Stony Sister seeing this fucking dude right in front of him.
Disadvantage on the attack. You're welcome.
is not going to use an attack.
Oh, no.
He is going to lower his gaze at you, that one large eye, and you see behind him in this fireplace
think
this
I'd
dark
just be like-
crystal pulse.
I'd just be like hand behind my back,
Uh-huh.
just like
Okay.
prepping this spell.
I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
Yeah, probably gonna have to save the thing. No Jumanjis.
No Jumanjis.
Ooh, that's
You go Winky.
Go, Winky, go.
That's what Talon says.
that is an 11.
An 11.
Rough.
All of a sudden, you feel around your eyes the kind of wrinkles and bits harden, and you feel your skin begin to toughen. Your hands can't move, your eyes can't move, and it feels as if your breath has been trapped. And standing in front of you is a stone version of the professor. You are considered restrained. Your
Would
movement
I be
is
able to
0.
Use my reaction
What is your reaction?
to use my recall.
So, are you using it?
I think I'm using it. I don't want.
As you feel your skin kind of begin to turn to stone, what do you do to cast recall? Since it's never been cast in the history of the world before.
I feel like we're getting dipped on.
We are. I bet.
I think I'm gonna, like, having been doing this, then I'm just gonna sort of like. I don't know. So.
No pressure, Matt.
Oh no.
No pressure. No
Can't do
pressure.
it, no. I guess, just like in a deep guttural bellow, just be like,
And as you say that,
and like kind
you
of
watch the little elements of stone kind of crackle and stop, and suddenly kind of pull back. Do you want to roll your recall dice?
yes.
Is this like a modified planar shift? I'm feeling a little bit.
Technically, it's not modified anything. This is 100% homebrew.
Oh boy.
What I did today. Maybe yesterday. I can't remember now.
Having a
3.
good time.
3. Okay. So you can now. So currently, it is its turn. You can unfortunately bring it back to either Winky's turn or to your turn.
Oh.
I think I will bring it back to my turn,
Okay.
and
So you watch as all of a sudden, Winky just kind of hobbles forward a couple steps. You see the bubbles all of a sudden back into his mouth. The little leaves that had sprung from his skin shove themselves back in as if they're ungrowing. You watch as the magic pulls itself away from this creature. This creature itself, Winky then moves back this way, moves back over here. You would see then that all of a sudden there's this kind of weird twitch, and I need everybody actually to make a Constitution saving throw. Winky's good.
do
Oh,
I
okay.
need to make it too?
You do. And then I need you to roll damage.
18.
Yeah, you make the save. You said 23? You make the save fine.
Alright, that is going to be a 14.
14. You are okay. Just barely. So everybody but this creature makes their save. Roll damage, which I believe is a d12. Something like that.
That's an interesting spell. I'm liking it.
Unfortunately, your concentration ends.
3
3? Okay.
plus 9.
9. It does take 11 points of damage, and all of you feel pain but don't take damage necessarily as you are ripped from one timeline back into another. The actual potentiality of everything that you guys just did flickering away into nothing. It is again your turn. Time is reversed by 12 seconds.
I am going to cast Greater Invisibility on myself.
Okay. So, noticing that this chaos may or may not take an entire minute to cast. Suddenly, how do you just touch yourself and go invisible?
Yeah. I've been like just ready, and then yeah, just boop.
right in front of the other statue. You just shift, and all of a sudden there is nothing there. That is just your action. You still have movement, and you still have a bonus action.
Yeah, so I'm gonna...
And technically you have your reaction back because you never used it, but you do lose the spell.
Yeah. I'm just gonna scoot on kind of around here
Okay.
and head towards where I saw the crystal.
Okay,
glowing in
you
the
see that there
back.
is this kind of chunks of different fabrics and things that have been balled up to create almost like a half nest in front of this fireplace. And as you approach the fireplace, there is this dark crystal that does pulse ever so slightly. You feel sick going close to it, but it's there within the fire. That is your turn.
Yep, I think that's my turn.
It is Winky's turn.
Winky!
Winky kind of looks confused, and his eye is twitching a lot worse than it normally is. But he is going to now go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So stay right there. And now that things are looking a little bit different. Oh, Winky, go, Winky, go. You watch as Winky holds up one hand, his eye twitching a little bit more. He breathes, and... Where's my other dice? I never have to use percentile dice.
Oh, magic, yay.
Oh, okay.
Pardon, fine.
Michael, I need you to make a dexterity saving throw.
Son of a gun.
As he opens his mouth and holds his hand up, there is this kind of swirl of a single cloud in the sky as lightning arcs down at you.
Oh, that's not good. That will be a 7.
Okay, you take 21 points of lightning damage as a lightning strike crackles out of the sky and
Is that
strikes
full
you
damage?
where you stand. What did you roll for a save?
7.
7, yes, that is full damage.
Ow.
21 points of lightning damage. But as he pulls his hand across, he is going to cast Wall of Fire. Unfortunately, not knowing where Matt is. This is why we got these guys. And this fire, it's worth noting, reaches the ceiling, so it is certainly catching this thing on fire. It catches the bed and runs across the door, sealing this hag in.
And the dangerous side is going towards the house, yes?
So it's not a dangerous side. It's if you... Hang on one sec, I'll read this for everybody at home. So the wall is 20 feet high, a foot thick. It is opaque. You cannot really see through the flames. Any creature within its area, within the wall's area, must make a dexterity saving throw at the start of their turn. Or sorry, when the wall appears. The side of the wall that is facing the hag will deal 5d8 fire damage to each creature that ends its turn within 10 feet of it. Ends its turn. So worth noting, you can come up to the on your side fine. That is Winky's turn. He, as the flame flickers, begins to just go, his eye twitches madly, and he just kind of goes,
I love the fire!
that is his turn. That brings us to its turn. It kind of whirls around as you just disappear. The flame across in front of it. It is going to take damage at the start of its turn, actually. That is D8. Out there. Let's go. It takes 19 points of fire damage as it shies away. It is going to retreat back 5 feet in this direction. You could get an opportunity attack if you would like. It does kind of draw into your range.
No, I'm just gonna whoop.
Goes by towards the window here.
Can I use my... No, I don't... No, never mind.
It can't see through the fire, so it is going to ready an action. That is its turn. That brings us to Tina. Michael, you are on deck.
I think I'm gonna run up and join where everybody else is.
Okay.
I'm still sparking from lightning.
Yeah, there's still just little bits off of you.
Hey.
And
Winky turns to you.
That's a nice look.
can I get a sense of what direction the fire is going in? Is it coming toward us or is it going the other way?
Other way.
I'll stand and wait.
Okay. You stand and wait. It doesn't seem like the wall itself is moving.
Sure.
It is just a wall of fire. But there's not a tremendous amount of heat going towards you at the moment.
Great. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna stand and wait.
You stand away. Michael, what do you want to do?
Alrighty. Let's see. Sorry, give me a quick sec.
Sure. Give this like a little.
I had a plan. Then Winky made a wall of fire.
Yeah, Winky does that.
All right. I am. Is this a fence right here?
Yes, it's like a white picket fence about 4 feet high. There are gaps in between, so you can see through it pretty easily.
Okay. I am going to get over the fence.
Yeah, no problem. You can leap over it pretty
okay.
easily.
So let's see who's here. So that will be. Bam, 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 bam.
So you enter this very tall dune grass, the tall grass, if you will.
Yes.
And as you do, your foot kind of pulls and you feel a string break, and a whole line of scrap metal just rattles noisily together as it clumps to the ground. You'd imagine that was designed to alarm somebody trying to sneak through. You are currently in battle, so probably nothing terrible. But as you step into that space, your foot hits something, and looking down, you see like a statue of a tiefling, its face frozen in terror, just kind of like this, but leaned over on its side on the ground.
Okay. I'm going to stay there, and I am going to see if I can get a shot at the window.
Through the grass, it'll be at disadvantage, but you can see the window.
Alrighty. I am going to cast an Eldritch Blast.
Sure. Are you though?
Got it. Huh?
Are you though?
Probably not. Oh, absolutely not. Okay, so let's see. That is 8 plus. So that's going to be a 15.
As you do this, it sees these bolts streaking for it, and it's going to use its readied action to use Counterspell.
Ooh.
I'm just going to pull it up. So for Counterspell, I haven't used this because I never get to be a player.
At least it's not using it on a big spell and a cantrip.
Well, yeah, but I wasn't really. It wasn't sure what you were going to cast, so
Fair enough.
it can't see anything. I need you to make a. Oh, you know what? 3rd level or lower, its spell fails and has no effect.
Yep.
So as this crackling energy loops out, it just is hit with another wave of force. I would say the glass here actually shatters as they meet in between, and there is just kind of, and there's nothing left of that spell. Does not take effect.
Alright, I am going to end by using my bonus action to activate Staggering Smite.
Staggering Smite. Okay. As you like hold, and again, it's a halberd now. It's changed a lot.
No,
I can't
it's-
remember.
It's a hammer.
Hammer. You watch as this kind of shadow begins to swirl even thicker around the edges of it. That is your turn.
That is my turn.
Matt, what would you like to do? You are invisible. You kind of see the window explode out as 2 spells meet, and then nothing happens. There's this wall of fire. You hear Winky laughing madly behind it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. So, is the crystal behind the?
It's right here.
Okay.
Inside of a fireplace that is currently actively burning, but
Okay. I think then I'm gonna like just go over here and wait to remove curse when the thing has moved further away.
okay. You step back a little bit, and as you draw closer to the gem, you feel physically like a little bit ill. Make a Constitution saving throw as you draw very close to this thing.
I probably should have done protection. Ooh. I'm gonna portend
Okay.
that
To 4. Your portents are 6 and 4, I believe.
no, it's a reroll, but I think I was supposed to have done it before I
Yeah.
rolled. Yeah. So that's 9.
It's a 9, okay. As you approach it, you do hear this kind of whisper in your mind. It just says, "Reach out and touch." And you feel your hands compelled. I need you. You're actually just going to take damage as you grab this burning hot gem. You take 5, 11, 13 points of fire damage as you reach out, and your hand just skin itself as you grab onto it and withdraw it from within. And as you do, you hear, "Good." That is your turn.
I guess so.
Fantastic. It is Winky's turn.
Don't zap me with lightning again.
Winky is going to rush up to you.
Oh no.
10. He's going to attempt to leap this, which for him is very difficult. Because he wants to heal you. Nope. You, from your perspective, just hear this, "Ah, I'm coming!" And then you just see this, and the whole wall kind of buckles in slightly. He does not seem to have arrived. That is his turn. It is now this creature's turn. It just saw that.
I'm imagining that scene from It where the kid's running and it just...
Within... What is the range on its stone gaze? Can't see you. It knows that the Eldritch Blast came from outside of there, so it is going... Yeah, that's what it's going to do. Alright. So, not representative of what they are, but you watch as this creature's arms, and you mostly are the only person that can see it, but its arms begin to move, and it seems to almost be pulling at strings. And as it does at your feet, you notice the stone creature begin to shift and move, and stands up, still very much looking like a statue. One in front of Winky. You guys actually hear Winky just go, "It's getting up!" as it begins to rise. There's one over here. Oh, actually. No, never mind. So just 2. But these stone guardians seem to be rising up. They go on initiative 20. Back to the top of the round. It is initiative 20. The one near Winky is going to attempt to strike him.
Uh-oh.
Natural 1. Ooh. You see, as it reaches out with its stone hands, Winky just shrieking, "No!" and just ducks out underneath it. There's one who's going to be taking an attack against you. That is going to be a 20 to hit.
Natural 20?
No.
Oh, thank God.
That hits, I assume?
Well, actually, my AC is 20 with the shield.
So that hits. That is going to be 6 points of slashing damage. It attacks again. That is going to be a 14 to hit.
Not happening.
So the first one slashes into you, and as you feel the pain enter your arm, you see it coming again, and you pull your shield and slam the second claw away. That is its move. That brings us to Tina.
I'm casting Shatter. It
Okay.
does not have big one I can see. Just a
it
point
is-
within range.
Correct, that is true. It is a point within range. Go ahead and roll. I want to say it's just straight damage.
It is.
And everything within 20 feet, I
Within
believe.
10 foot.
Then
10 foot
foot.
radius.
And what is this? The spell save DC?
Constitution save. That's
What's that con save?
17?
Ooh, well, it rolled a 7. So yeah,
So close.
you cast Shatter. Go ahead and roll damage.
And isn't it maximized because this is a construct?
It is not a construct.
not a construct.
It is not a construct.
Oh, okay.
15.
But would be if it was an item construct or there's another one. 15?
15.
Okay. You watch as... And 15 points of what?
Okay, it's lightning damage.
Lightning damage? Sure. Okay. So 15 points...
Thunder damage, I lied.
Thunder damage. All good. Still magical. There's this high-pitched whine, and you can see the one little eye kind of jerk over before suddenly there is this loud shattering sound. The flames in the wall flicker. You can see the bed itself actually just shatter up against the wall. Elements of the sheet ripping out through the window, which you can see. I would say also parts of the sort of little nest fort have been like ripped apart. I would say actually almost hitting you. You actually get this like vague bit of tinnitus even from this sound. Its eyes cross and then seem to straighten out. Still seems like it's okay. That is your turn. That is going to bring us to Michael.
Alrighty. Let's see.
Agreed, Talon.
10, 20. If I ended up getting here, is the window open?
The window is shattered outward, so
Shatter
yes.
outwards. Okay. That's right. Could I end up doing my attack since it's so close to the window?
You certainly could.
Alrighty, fantastic. Then I am going to move away from the
Okay.
stone.
Provokes an opportunity attack. Whoop. That is going to be a 19 to hit.
That is a miss. I
There you
hold
go.
up my shield.
And as it strikes, you kind of knock it away, like barely even making not even looking at it. You stride forwards up to the window.
Okay, and we're gonna make sure I don't waste my staggering smite, and we're also gonna do some silly things if I hit.
Sure, silly things are the best kind of things.
Starting off, I am going to be making the attack.
Yeah, fair enough.
And let me double check on.
Sure. Most people tuning in would know that in Adventures in Albion, when somebody takes a certain amount of time, there is like reaction attacks and things like that.
Okay.
This is a one-shot where people just have their characters for today, so we're not holding that super tightly. It's not like Fugue, where you guys were literally learning your characters,
Right.
but still pretty new, so we're a little
So,
loose on that.
I'm going to be making the attack.
Okay,
Well, that we're all spellcasters, and it takes a minute, because...
also true.
That's a 2.
That's a 2. So you swing, and there is this kind of like whoosh as this shadowy energy like swirls around it, and it just simply steps back, and you hit the wall. The timber splinters and shatters down, creating essentially a doorway where that was.
Alrighty. I'm going to try to bring back the momentum, spin back around, and go for another attack because I have extra attack.
Okay.
Much better. So that is a 15 plus 7.
Okay. You 15 plus 7, that's 23. You swing around, pulling it through the doorway and back around. You impact it solidly in the chest. Go ahead and roll damage.
Righty. So with the damage, I'm expending my last Warlock spell slot
Okay.
to do extra damage for the Eldritch Invocation, Eldritch Smite.
Eldritch
I'm
Smite,
adding
okay.
1d8 force of damage plus 1d8 per a level of the spell slot using. That is 5.
Nice.
So that
Okay.
is going to be
68
68 of damage plus the spell Staggering Smite, which I bonus actioned earlier. And that is going to be doing an extra 4d6 psychic to the target. The target
Okay.
must make a wisdom save throw. On a failed save, it has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks, and can't take reactions until the end of its next turn.
So that is 4d6 plus 6d8 plus 4 psychic damage. Plus your weapon damage.
Plus my weapon damage.
Okay.
Which is a Warhammer is 2d6, I believe?
Yeah, that's right. 2d6. So it's two, so in total, that is going to be 66, 68 plus 4 psychic.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and roll damage. Do you need dice?
I need to get out more dice. I was not expecting to use this many dice.
That's a lot of dice all at once. Yeah.
Here's a little guy. Tiny. It's adorable. I love it. Alright, I think I have enough to do just like 2 rolls.
Okay. You do need more.
Sixes and 8s. Because I'm doing. Alright, so 2, 4, 8. 13. So that is going to be 20 for
Okay.
the D6s.
Nice.
And then so that's 15, 20, 29 for the D8s.
Nice. So that's 49 points of damage plus 4 psychic damage to a grand total of 33 points of damage. How much of that was force damage?
The force damage was the D6s.
The d6s? 4 of the d6s, correct?
Yes.
So in total, that brings it to 47 points of damage. Tremendously powerful strike. So you watch as all of a sudden this dwarven figure strides out of the dune grass, swinging this hammer, whoosh, shatters the wood into the ground, steps into the doorway with the momentum of the second swing, and slams it into this creature's chest. There is this crackle of shadow energy with this kind of almost, you hear like a scream enter into the creature itself, and then this like brief pinpoint of dark energy that explodes out, and this creature actually staggers back about 5 feet. You can go with it if you want to maintain contact.
I will.
You step onto the ruined edges of the bed, the wood crumbling beneath your feet. And you can hear now whispers coming from this weapon. Whispers not as friendly as the ones that you'd heard in the past. You can hear forward, kill, forward.
Get you your damn soul. Hold on.
That is your turn.
Yes.
That brings us to Matt. What are you doing?
I'm going to attempt to remove curse from this crystal that I'm now holding.
Okay. I'm going to say actually it is.
Yeah, I figured whatever I was going to try to do was probably not going to happen when I went to do it.
The object is a cursed magic item. Its curse remains, but the spell breaks its owner's attunement to the object. Okay. As you cast this, first of all, your invisibility fades, I believe.
Yes, I probably lost my concentration on it when I grabbed when I was.
You
lost
would
my-
not have.
Oh, really? Oh, because it probably wants me to.
As you kind of snap out of it and you can feel this pain, you instantly, almost instinctually pump this remove curse. Nothing seems to happen.
Oh,
It doesn't appear to be cursed.
okay. Well, is it compelling me to do anything?
Not at the moment.
Oh, cool. I guess I'm just gonna look for an exit and scoot
You see
on
that
out.
there is a window with this sort of stone statue peering in. It appears to be a knight. There is this window over here where a branch at some point has grown through and broken the glass. There is a door right behind you.
Sentient knight?
Doesn't appear to be. It seems to be stone.
Okay. I think then I shall see what's through this door after inspecting whether or not it is trapped.
Okay. So then for your action, you are inspecting it.
the door.
Make an investigation check. With your tiny dice.
Teeny tiny dice.
Teeny tiny.
Oh, with a 2, my investigation is still 20.
Jesus. All right. You kind of peer into the door. It is not trapped, however, there is a lock. And you would imagine that it is in fact locked.
Huh. I suppose I will have to unlock it with some sort of unlocking spell.
Like knock, perhaps. However, that is your turn. That brings us to Winky. Winky engaged in combat with this particular foe. He's feeling pretty brave.
Winky, don't! Oh, I just realized, aren't I in the realm of the fiery...
You are. So on the big start of your turn, we'll get to that. We'll flavor it up to the front of that. Winky is going to attempt to push the statue. Winky is not strong. You watch as Winky's one kind of winking eye seems to almost cross, and you just hear him go, "Ah!" as he just starts pushing, and that is imposing. Ooh, that's a natural 20 from Winky.
Good job.
Winky just shoves the statue back, and the statue tumbles into the fire. I'm going to say he falls prone.
Good job, Winky.
You
Feat
hear
of
Winky
strength from Winky.
kind of step over the other statue, just winking or kind of twitching even more aggressively. That is Winky's turn. That brings us to the creature. The creature is taking damage as he has now moved forward into this fire as well. He takes 3, 6, 11, 14 points of fire damage. He's starting to show wear, and you can see like parts of its cloth sort of tunic are beginning to like smolder and catch on fire. It is going to step back, which is going to provoke an opportunity attack if you wish from
Yes,
Michael.
I am going to take it. That's another 2.
It's another 2. The shadow this time, as it passes through the flames, kind of trails fire behind it, but you swing wide as it steps away a little quicker than you were expecting. Gazing at everything that is happening around it. First of all, can it reload its stone gaze? It does. It is going to direct its one bulging eye at you now, and you see all of a sudden the eye seems to swell and take up the entire room. Make a Constitution saving throw.
Okay. That is another 2.
So as you finish this swing and the shadow kind of comes up near your ear, you hear just watch out. But it's too late. You kind of make eye contact and this eye swells and you feel your skin shift and harden and turn to stone. You are currently restrained and also a rock.
I rock.
But you do your roll.
I hope not.
That
I'm gonna
is
check.
its action. As a bonus action, it is. No, it doesn't have one. It's its turn. It is top of the initiative. The stone creatures go first. This one statue is taking a lot of fire damage. 7, 12, 16 points of fire damage to that stone statue. It is going to stand up. And it's going to swing. It is on fire, and it's going to swing with its fiery claws
Winky,
at
look out.
Winky. First attack is going to be an 8. Second attack is going to be a natural 20. There we go. So this natural 20 on Winky is going to be 1, 2. That is going to be 20 total points of damage, including 10 points of fire. You watch as this claw rakes across the front of Winky, ripping open parts of the leather armor. Patchwork as it was, the flesh itself like rips open, and you can see little bits of green blood trickle out, but most of it is cauterized by the fire. Winky yelps out in pain. He's real hurt, is Winky. That is its turn. The other one is going to also go. Yep. It's going to make an athletics check to get over the fence. It is going to just kind of boom into the fence, unable to pass through it. That brings us to Tina.
I'm going to attempt to hit the one on the other side of the fence.
So you want to step up to where it is?
Yeah.
Just on the other side?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm tall enough.
You are, yeah.
Tall people.
Tall people.
You guys are all over 5 feet tall, technically.
Me and the professor are right at that.
Yeah, so you swing over and you, what do you, with your rapier? So you lunge forward and strike at the stone. Roll your damage. This one is unhurt as far as you could tell.
10.
As you go up, you watch it kind of clunk into the fence and bounces off. You strike forward and it scrapes along the side. You see like a whole plate of the stone itself chip and fall away. You do see that there is like a stone bone that runs through, almost as if you just pried away a section of flesh. And as the stone hits the ground, it hits with a wet thump as it becomes meat again.
I get 2 more hits.
There you go. Roll your second and third attacks. Winky is the MVP, I agree.
Oh yeah, Winky is carrying.
Winky's doing way more than I thought Winky was going to do.
And you underestimated goblins.
I'm a dwarf. Racism's in my
They
blood.
have a vast culture.
And a 25.
Yeah, roll damage for both of those. As you sort of step up to the fence, the first one chips off a plate, the second one carves into the shoulder.
9 each, 18.
18. So you lop the first strike straight through and it cuts down to the bone. You see just elements of blood flake away as the rock converts midair. The second strike goes straight through the arm. The arm itself cleaves off and just flops down. You can see the fingers twitch slightly as they become flesh again. This kind of reddish tiefling skin. It looks real rough. That is a lot of damage to that particular one. Is that your turn?
Yes.
Michael, what do you want to do?
I'm stone.
You are. Oh, so make a Constitution saving throw. This is at the end of your turn.
Wow, it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's an 18.
18.
So that is going to be 22.
From deep within, you hear these whispers. Wake up, up, wake up, wake up! And suddenly you feel the stone chip off of you, and you're able to pull your arm free. You rent the other arm free, and you just pull yourself loose. It is the end of your turn, but you are no longer made of stone.
Woo!
There we go. And that is your turn. That brings us to Matt. What do you want to do?
I think I'm gonna unlock that door with my knock.
Okay, so you cast knock, and remind me again, that is the DC of the door has to be... Target that is held shut by a mundane lock or that is stuck or barred becomes unlocked. No worries. As you cast
It's
knock...
not even an arcane lock?
No.
Wow.
Arcane lock, it just it mutes the
Yeah, it
spell
just
for like
mutes
10
it.
minutes.
I just expected that it would be magic.
What is the verbal component to your spell?
I'm just like,
And as you do that, you hear this, And you try the door, and it swings wide open. As soon as it opens, you can see that there is this elven girl frozen as a statue. This look of like surprise on her face as she's turning to move, but she is a statue. Beyond her, you can see just the beginnings of a cobblestone path
Startled again.
that lead to what look like maybe an outhouse beyond it.
Go in, you go out. Startles. I'm gonna make my way back to go get to the portal in time.
Okay. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And you're just continuing. I would say you use this as an action you can't bonus action dash because you're not a rogue.
I'm not a rogue, I'm an old man.
Yeah, you kind of begin to hobble by the house. You see that there's like the beginnings of a cart that are being built kind of over there that's fallen into disrepair. That is your turn.
I think, the only thing I want to do now is think about, like, I haven't done anything like this since back when I was a TA.
Kind of walk holding this nauseating feeling gem. That is your turn. It is now Winky's turn. Winky is going to... Let's see if he can pull this off, because he's not doing great.
We believe in you, Winky.
Okay. You watch as all of a sudden Winky kind of looks around looking hurt, and he just goes and just seems to pull across his shoulders and becomes almost two-dimensional and just seems to snap out of existence. And he's going to travel like 10 feet. Just reappear right here. And then you just hear as he just shrieks off 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 into the tree line. There's little bits of like green blood dripping behind him as the cat terrorizes our cords. That is
The real
Winky's
boss of
turn.
the game.
That brings us to this creature.
Stop it.
You are not stone anymore, huh?
I'm not stone anymore, no.
Okay. He's going to step right up to you and reach out with one twisted, gnarled hand, and you see this necrotic kind of energy reach out. And I need you, let me just see what the spell flavor on this is, because I rewrote it a little. Go ahead and make a Constitution saving throw.
Constitution?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is going to be... It's going to be a 17.
17. Okay, yeah, you save that. So as it reaches out, these elements of necrotic energy latch onto you, almost like tentacles, and you're able to pull most of them away, but you still take 9 points of necrotic damage as they kind of just latch onto you, and as they pull away, you can just see like red marks where they leave a little bit of a sort of burn.
I'm gonna remark with, please, I've been bathing in this energy for years!
Fair enough. That is its turn. That brings us to the top of initiative order. The stone creatures. This one only has 3 health left, so it's dying in the fire no matter what. The rock itself heats and has been heating over time, and as it glows on red hot, just shatters. The one that is in contact with you, now that you've hit it, is going to turn around and lash out at you with its claws. First attack is going to be, that's going to be a 6 to hit.
Oh no, not at all.
Second one is going to be a 13 to hit.
Negative.
So it
Ghost
keeps kind
Rider.
of bumping into this fence, very zombie-like, as it tries to reach out, and you just kind of take a step back, and it can't reach you. Tina, what do you want to do?
I'm gonna hit it again because that seems to be somewhat effective.
Yeah, go ahead.
24.
24, that absolutely hits. Go ahead and roll damage.
11.
Yeah. You slash out again with your rapier, driving it straight into the middle, and where the cracks have begun to sort of coalesce, the stone ruptures, and it just shatters into pieces. This one is dead as well.
I'm gonna keep moving. I have 40 feet of movement.
Okay. That's like no movement for her.
That's not.
She can move like 220 feet.
It's real slow. I'm struggling real hard. Just gonna up and in, like we're moving around the fire.
Okay. You're tall enough now. Yeah, you're fine. So you walk into this, and as you're running through this dune grass, your feet a couple of times pull up these wires, and you hear rattles of metal go across. Other than that, nothing seems to happen. Is that your turn? Yeah. Michael, go ahead, and you're going to take...
Do I do a save or I just take?
It's at the beginning of your turn because you're within 10 feet. So 5, 11, 16. Ooh, wow. I rolled all 5s and 6s. 22 points of fire damage as you begin your turn on this bed that is just like lit into flames. And the fire itself, it's worth noting, is beginning to like lick up the walls and ceiling. So very much this is beginning to kind of spread, I'll say. The remaining bits of glass shatter inwards, and the tree that Winky is kind of hiding beneath is beginning to catch as well.
Alright, I am going to move over, keeping within range, but moving out of... Oh wait, does the fire have 10 feet?
10 feet.
So it's hitting...
Yep.
So it would be here. Okay, then I'm going to move completely out of the way.
Sure, you kind of step across some of these elements of blankets that have been blown across from the shatter spell.
And I am going to bonus action to Hexblade's Curse on the Witchy Witch.
Okay.
And Hexblade's Curse...
He's no longer concentrating because the stones are dead. So what stat are you choosing for Hexblade's Curse?
So it's actually not a curse, it's Hexblade's Curse, so it doesn't stat. I get bonus to damage rolls against it. Any attack I make against it crits on a 19 instead of a 20.
Beautiful.
And if the cursed target does die, I regain hit points equal to my Warlock level plus my charisma mod.
Okay.
So I am going to roll for the first attack.
Sure.
That is a nat 20.
All right, yeah. So the way that these work here, just as a reminder, you roll your damage and then you double all dice, and then you add your modifiers.
Alrighty, so I am throwing my shield to the side as I'm doing this and two-handing the Warhammer.
Okay, it clatters onto the wood as you grab the hammer with both hands.
And I'm gritting and guttural screaming as I swing with the, let's see, that goes up to, it's a D10, isn't it? For a Warhammer?
For a Warhammer, I think it's 2d6.
It's 2d6. When you two-hand it?
Oh, actually, you know what? I think one-handed is 1d10, and then two-handed is 2d6, maybe. I can look later.
Okay, so I am going to... That is unfortunate. But actually, because I'm two-handing, I have Greater Weapon Master, so I reroll that. That's my luck.
1 and 2 are 1.
So that's going to be 4 plus 9. So that is going to be 13.
13 misses. You swing wide as it kind of arcs out of the way. For damage, right?
damage.
Right. Because you already... Okay.
Because I got a nat 20, so that's going to be 26.
26. So, you come stepping forwards, this time like gritting with both hands, and you swing hard. You dig right into its thigh, and you feel something buckle and break underneath. There is this sort of purplish, dark, foul-smelling liquid that's seeping into the cloth itself. This thing is starting to look real rough.
Okay.
That is your turn.
Extra attack.
Go ahead.
I am going to... That's a nat 1.
Oh, man. And this time, as you do it again, you swing back, and it's already kind of buckled. It hisses and draws away. There's a moment where you almost let go, but this being, this kind of shadowy weapon, kind of flickers out and just returns to your hands.
Okay.
That is your turn.
Yep.
That brings us to Matt. You're now outside. You can see that there is fire racing off of this building. You see Winky kind of dashing in the same direction that you're running. Still screaming.
I'm gonna just like make my way up and keep. Actually, I'm gonna cast Locate Object and use it to find the nearest teleporter or the portal.
And it's within 300 feet, right?
1,000 feet.
1,000? 1,000 feet. Nothing comes up.
Then let me see. Does something else?
Does it give you a vague direction?
I think it gives me like the sense of where.
It would be back in the... Very technically, this portal is not an object. That being said, I'll say that you get the vague sense that heading back towards the beach is the direction you want to go.
Then I'm going to head there
Okay.
and pull out the sending stone.
Okay, so as your bonus action, you pull out the sending stone.
Yeah.
That is your turn. That brings us to Winky, who I'm going to say does not notice that you're there and continues to shriek and run. 10, 20, 30. And he's kind of moving in the direction of the beach as well. That brings us to this creature. It sees the fire. It just got hit really hard. It's going to turn around. And it's going to claw at you. That's going to be a 13 to hit.
It's 18 now, but that's still no go.
And then as it misses, the first one missing, the second one comes around. This is going to be a 25 to hit.
Yeah, that hits.
You got kind of lucky, though. That is going to be 10 points of slashing damage. Does it get Stone Gaze back? It does not. That is its turn. Brings us to the top of the initiative order. There are no stone creatures left. Tina, what do you want to do? You see through the window that is broken. Fire is beginning to engulf this entire building. You can see that this creature is engaged with this dwarven gentleman in a pretty fierce battle at the moment. You also hear in the distance.
Well, I'm not dumb enough to run into the building, so I'm gonna back up
Okay.
and head back out the way we came. But on the way out, like, you know, the building's on fire, yeah? You like,
I'm noticing that!
you might want to think about leaving. Just throwing that out there. Just
Fair enough. That is your turn. Excellent use of your action. Michael, what do you want to do?
Alrighty. This window is not broken in.
Correct, just glass.
Okay. I am going to move to the side of it, and
Okay.
as I'm moving to the side, I am going to make a hearty swing at its side.
Okay.
And that is going to be a 7. So that is going to be a 22 to hit.
That hits, yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty, and then I am going to still dual wielding, or not dual wielding, but
I know what you mean.
two-handing.
Double fisting, if
Double
it were.
fisting indeed. Alrighty, so that is a 5 plus 9, so that is going to be a 14.
Nice. So you slam into it. The shadows themselves kind of spreading across it as it impacts. That hurts it.
Alrighty, and then I am going to roll again. Ah! Crap.
Hey, why do we have to keep fighting?
This is my home.
So that is a 10 plus 7. So that's a 17 to hit.
17 to hit. That just hits. This
Alrighty.
time it kind of seems to know that you're coming and tries to turn the blow aside, but you pound right into its forearm.
So that is going to be a 15 for damage.
Nice. So yeah, that at this point it hammers in and the flesh itself spreads. You can see the bone right before blood kind of oozes out over it and begins to run down and drip onto the ground. It is quite hurt, and it's beginning, the bulging eye, to like look around, seeming to kind of take stock of the situation.
I'm going to use the rest of my movement to get over to the window, and could I fit out, or would I need to?
You would need to like action dive through it.
I'm going to action dive through it.
Make an athletics check first, or acrobatics, your choice.
I choose athletics. That's a net 20.
Okay, that's all you got to roll. You run through, you strike as you go by.
10.
It catches your blow, and as it like reaches to grab you, it has to block. And in that moment, you leap through. The glass shatters outside. You kind of tuck and roll and land on your feet. You make it all the way out into the dune grass. You kind of look around. You hear metal scatter around your feet, but you are outside.
Woo!
That is your turn.
That is my turn.
That brings us to Matt. What do you want to do?
Abernathy,
Yes.
I've got the crystal. I'm heading towards the portal now.
Fantastic. I'll meet you back in the chambers.
Wonderful. I look back kind of as I'm walking away to see, like, how are the soldiers doing?
You kind of turn around and you can see Tina's character, this elf, just kind of booking it down the stone pathway. You see the rest of the building in fire. You see Winky's in front of you. You hear Winky in front of you, but you don't see anybody else.
Well, I see one of your soldiers, but no sign of hardback. Yes.
It's a shame, but unacceptable loss. Hurry back.
Yes, I'll be there shortly.
So you continue to hustle along the way. Hello, Cat. That is your turn. That brings us to Winky. Winky notices that you are behind him, and the shrieking suddenly from kind of stops, and he looks, and he just goes, "You found it!" That is his turn. That is going to bring us to this creature. It sees you leaping out of this window. However, it is really hurt. Its big, mad eye kind of turns. I'm going to say... It stops and kind of... you would see, just as you're running, it kind of put two arms on either side of the mantle and kind of look into the fireplace. Its eyes dart about suddenly, and it turns, and from inside this cabin, you just hear this... as it's furious that it is lost what has belonged to it. It is going to use the remaining bit of its movement to turn. Seeing only one person, it levels its hand at you and casts Chaos Bolt.
I don't have my shield.
You do not. It is currently on the floor, very heated up as it is kind of catching fire.
I can make a new one.
That is going to be 19 to hit.
19 to hit. I'm at 18, so
18.
that hits.
Unfortunate. Okay. That is going to be force damage, and it is going to be 10, 18. That's going to be 21 points of force damage. As this, it points, and this just bolt of force damage slams into your back, rocketing you forward several feet into the dune grass itself. That is its turn. That brings us to you, Tina. You hear this creature howl in rage, and then this kind of woof, as this bolt hits something in the dune grass.
I mean, I still can't see anything because of the fire.
Nope. What are you doing?
Pity.
I would leave.
Okay. You continue to kind of book it. You do see Winky. You hear Winky just go, "You found it!" And you kind of hear the professor speaking a little bit, but continue to run. That is your turn. Michael, what do you want to do?
Alright, I am going to start cackling in kind of a manic, uncontrollable way. You want the soul. Let's get it for you.
Okay.
And I'm going to point the weapon at the creature, and I'm going to cast Eldritch Blast, because my
Fantastic.
weapon is my spellcasting
Yeah,
modifier.
absolutely.
I'm going to hold down speed.
Sure, yeah, that might be better for you.
Much. That's an 18.
An 18 hits. Yeah, roll
So-
damage for that Eldritch Blast.
That's so that would be
Eldritch
a
Blast.
25 for the first one.
Okay, that hits.
That is a that is a 17 for the second.
That just barely hits.
That is a nat 20 for the third.
Okay. And that's 3 bolts total?
4 bolts.
4 bolts. Roll the fourth one.
That is 14.
14 misses. So roll the first 2,
Okay.
and then we'll do the critical hit separately.
Okay, so the first 2. Where did my weekend?
They say that that's much better than all the ones you've been rolling.
Yes, it has. Thank you, chat. It's very true. I do not have good luck when rolls. Alright, so.
You're not dead yet, so.
And it went all the way over there. I'm the best.
That is absolutely true, Kat. You can do that.
Okay. So
A lot of dice to
first
roll.
D10 is 4, so that is going to be a 9 because I add my spellcasting proficiency mod
Okay.
to it. And then that is going to be a 12. So
Okay,
9
so-
and a 12 for the first 2.
9 and a 12. So in total, that is 21 points of damage?
Yep. And now for
Alright.
the crit.
Yeah, and so you're going to double the dice rolls.
So that is going to be 8. Now, is that doubling my proficiency mod?
No, just the numbers
Okay,
on the
so
dice.
then that's going to be 18.
18. Fantastic. The first bolt, as you level it out, all 4 of them erupt around it. One of them hits the side of the door or side of the window and kind of fizzles out, the wood itself splintering inwards. The other 3 go true. The first one impacts it in the leg, kind of sinking it down a little bit as elements of the shin carve in. The second one hits in the shoulder, and you can see it buckle back slightly as it continues to kind of try to step towards you. The third one impacts it directly in the throat, and you can see like bits of the skin peel away. You can actually see bone and this kind of pulsing, almost like a secondary heart within itself. It again now kind of bits of gore icking, dripping out from this massive hole. It is this kind of gurgling sound, but it continues to move forward. It is hurt. It is extremely hurt. That is your turn?
I am going to use my movement 5, 10 to get away from flammable things.
Unfortunately, because of this fence and your height, and you've already used your action, you can get up to the fence, but you would need to.
So I'm going to try to
next
get
time.
as far away from the flaming badness that's coming.
Yeah, I would say you can get.
Up to.
Okay.
That is your turn. That brings us to Matt.
Abernathy,
Yes.
I am a bit miffed that, you didn't tell me that I would be dealing with something as this. I would have sent my TAs.
I don't really know what you're getting into. Are you ready to come back?
Yes, I'll explain when we get back. Set the pot on.
Just gotta make sure this camera stands centered because the cat's moving it.
Yeah, keep.
Well, just say the word and I'll open the portal.
Yes, I'm about ready now.
And as you say that, you can see the air in front of you begin to shimmer and flicker, and this little element, not similar to the portals that you've seen, but it's almost this shimmering purple doorway that kind of becomes a line and then opens up in front of you.
I'm gonna go through.
Okay, you step through, and there is this lurch. It's a fast sensation of movement. You don't feel your stomach rise up. You don't feel the nausea except from your hands where you hold this crystal. But suddenly you step forward, and you are in the sitting room of Abernathy the Bender.
Oh,
And you see this door shimmering behind you. That is your turn. Abernathy is not in there currently. It is Winky's turn. He turns and looks at this doorway. And he leaps through. Suddenly, into this really nice stone sitting room that smells of leather and pipe tobacco.
splendid.
You hear from behind you in this quiet chamber.
Oh, this is quite nice.
And he turns and looks at you in Goblin says, where have we come to? That is his turn. That brings us to this creature. 5, 10, up to the window. It cannot fit through. Whoever it's going to reach out and fire another chaos bolt. That is going to be a 9 to hit. So as it strikes out, you can see this kind of like pulsing every time its heart like this just rolls down its chest. It tries to cast it and kind of staggers to the side. You see this orb of actually again force energy out into the air and off, seeming to dissipate into nothing. That is its turn. Tina, you continue to run.
I think I would have been moving in the direction of Winky.
Sure. So you see this kind of purple portal open, and you see the professor just dip right through it, and you see Winky stop, turn, and just leap through it. You hear it right at the end. It's kind of this, and just right through.
I guess I'm gonna follow.
You run through, and as you hit the door, there is this kind of sensation of rapid movement, and you step onto cool stone. You see Winky in front of you in the very end of kind of this goblin shriek that you don't understand. Although it seems to be gesturing articulately towards Matt. That is your turn. Michael, what do you want to do?
You're extremely hard to put down, but put you down I will.
Nat 20.
Fantastic.
For the first one. For the second one, that is going to be a 23.
That hits.
For the third one, that's going to be a 5, so that's going to be 12.
12, that misses. That one kind of spirals into the ground.
And the third one is going to be a 20.
Okay, so roll the critical first.
Okay.
So double your die roll. Oh, sorry, cat. We meant the actual cat. There are actual cats around here.
Meow.
As I said that, it just dipped out of the room. You will not tell me where I am.
The other one's probably sleeping somewhere still.
Yeah, I saw him somewhere.
She came out for a bit.
All right, so you're rolling Eldritch Blast damage for the critical.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, I'm looking for my D10s.
No
There they are.
worries. You need D10.
Alrighty, so the critical is going to be a 17. No, sorry, a 19.
19. Fantastic.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. It's going to be 19 for the roll, so it's going to be double that. So it's going to be 20. No, 30.
30?
Oh,
As this 34?
34.
Tell us how it happens.
So I end up taking my hammer, both hands, pointing it at it. Take your cursed soul. And shoot.
And as you shoot, you can see, you say, take your cursed soul. It's getting closer, and you can see two of these chaotic bolts of energy begin to manifest in its hands. And as it moves forward, you fire this bolt out, and it ruptures into the chest itself. And you can see elements of this energy, the force, like rupture out, and the ribs themselves crack and shred outwards. You see all points of them rip through the flesh. The creature falls down dead. You hear whispers from this hammer. Thank you. We eat, we feast. You feel this kind of rage subside ever so slightly within you, and you look around. This entire building is engulfed in flames, and there is nobody else around you. You see... That's it.
I'm going to attempt to use my movement that I haven't to hobble over this fence, feeling...
Okay.
Oh, wait, actually, that's right. I gain health.
You kind of climb over the fence as bits of your injuries kind of seal themselves up. However, at this moment, you are out of combat. However, that was 612. Unfortunately,
Oh no.
within the study, suddenly you watch as this purple portal shuts. And the door open, and Abernathy kind of hobbles in. Just, a pleasure. Glad that you could join us. He looks different. I see something did in fact happen to him.
Oh no. This is my good friend Winky.
And Winky kind of waves, and you can see one of his fingers is like deep in one of his ears. His eye kind of twitching extra as it is like touching his brain, basically.
He is the chief of his tribe, and he helped us get the crystal.
He kind of holds his little hands out towards the crystal.
And here we are, and we have saved his village, and unfortunately, I do not know what happened to the soldiers.
Well, I'm sure they're fine.
Yes.
There's one of them here.
Oh! You made it through!
So good of you to notice.
Well, I am impressed.
The other one is tough. I'm sure he'll be fine wherever it is that you were. Where was that, by the way?
I'm gonna, like, think back on our travels and think, like,
Make an intelligence check.
did I recognize anything?
Make an intelligence check. Let's find out.
Is this a place I've been to? Probably, because that's a 26.
So there's a couple things that kind of spring to mind. The first of which is, so you remember that they said something about, I think it was the distant shore, and you vaguely remember that. So you tell him the distant shore.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, we were somewhere along the distant shore. Isn't that right, Winky?
Winky kind of looks and just nods, his ears flapping.
Yeah, distant shore, in the north.
And you see Abernathy just kind of stroke his beard. You went quite far. You were in Derby.
Yes, I will say, I was, quite full of energy up until the very end. I think I got a bit ahead of myself.
Well, it happens, and it's one of the reasons I sent you along. A level head, you know. Come, let me tell you about this gem. May I please have it?
Yes.
So as he hands it to you, you see Winky kind of just look, and he turns to you and in Goblin says, so when are we going to help my people? As he turns and says that, we shift our focus back. There is fire, and there is quite a heavy silence other than that. What do you want to do?
Another one of my dice. I am hopping over the fence and getting as far away from the fire as I can.
Yeah, so no problem. You hop over the fence and run out a little bit into the Meadowlands itself.
Let's see what I
I'm going to take a knee real quick and look around to see if I can see my comrades.
Make a perception check.
Alrighty. So that is going to be a 6.
6. You do not see your comrades. You see a little stone turtle on the ground. And you would see off in the distance, like there are forests that kind of begin to form maybe 500, 600 feet away. You don't see your comrades.
I'm going to dismiss my weapon at the moment.
Bursts into shadow and then nothing.
And I'm going to start walking in the direction that we came, going around the fire.
Okay.
Trying to make my way back to the beach and attempting to recall if I remember seeing a portal on the beach.
Okay. As you walk, you don't remember seeing a portal on the beach. But eventually you do come to this group of goblins who very excitedly run up to you. Gums, the one that you spoke to before, approaches and in fairly good common just kind of says, where's Winky? Have you returned with the things that we need?
I'm not sure where my comrades are. I'm not sure where your comrade is. All I know is I killed the hag of the house over there.
Well, that's wonderful news. We must celebrate. Come.
And kind of invites you into this little hovel.
I'm actually looking to leave as soon as I can. I need to find my comrades. Would you know of any ways off the island, black portals that you might have seen?
6 goblins, all of whom their ears kind of slowly are going down as you say you're leaving. But they do sort of kind of talk in a language that you do not speak amongst themselves. And Gums kind of turns to you.
If you really must go, to the north is a small town of people like you, and maybe they could find you a way. But there's food.
Thank you. I'm not hungry. I've eaten before my adventure.
Well, we wish you the best. You've helped us a lot.
I end up reaching into my pouch and I take out 10 gold and I kind of flick it.
Immediately, they all dive and begin like clawing at each other to kind of grab it. You hear like grunting and kind of like screaming as they're all like grabbing for it. The other one just kind of smiles. You see again, she's missing all of the teeth on the side, and she just says,
Thank you.
take this. And she reaches in and she pulls out this ratty little, like a doll almost, that's been made out of scraps of cloth. And as she kind of shakes it, you do see one of her teeth kind of pop back, as it does seem to provide some kind of a healing benefit. But she passes it to you.
Thank you. I pocket it and end up going in the direction that she mentioned.
And she kind of, bye! And kind of waves as you head off in that direction. Snapping us back to you guys with Abernathy. He takes the gem. Now that we have this, we can begin some of the more extreme work. I do appreciate your help in reaching this preliminary step. The next opportunity, I believe, will be in a number of months, but I will be sure to reach out. It promises to be a similarly complex adventure.
Perhaps next time I shall wait here with you, and we'll just send some of my TAs.
Perhaps. I would imagine, though, that this will pique your interest.
Well, I guess we will wait and see.
Indeed. In the meantime, and he begins to speak to you a little bit about...
By the way, did you get the pot going?
No, it must have slipped my mind. Just a moment. And he kind of hobbles off towards what you would presume to be a kitchen. However, he does return after about 20 minutes with some tea. A little bit of sort of like a jasmine kind of thing. Gives you a cup, and kind of figures out how you like your refreshments. As you again kind of come to rest, he no longer has the gem. But he tells you a little bit about some of the experiments that he is intending to do. And it is now close to midnight, so we are going to end our adventure here. However, you guys all technically survived. You are in present-day Alberon. No, you are... Sorry, roughly 421 years past where we currently are in Adventures in Alberon, but you are at the same time period that you left.
Hey.
You are just
Hey, back
Just
again.
like
3,728 miles away. So,
I can make it.
you know,
I can get it.
across two oceans.
I'll get an Uber.
Yeah, so you know you're a distance away. You guys are in Ganon, and I will say you guys are beginning to see. I don't remember if you guys have heard anything about Ganon in present day Alberon.
I don't think so.
But I will say Shay would definitely know about it. It is this like chaotic, storm-torn land of demonic entities and civilization just on the brink of collapse. And I will say that you guys are participating in some of the events leading up to that currently. So this has in fact been a little bit of a lore dive into some stuff that is currently happening. Again, this session, Many Minds, set about 421 years before the current things that are happening in Adventures in Alberon, our primary sort of world. This is a one-shot set, very technically 400 years in the past, then briefly 7,000 years in the future, then 20 days in the past, and now back to the present day. So we've jumped around. We've been on 2 different planets within the solar system. I will say you guys did have a possibility of going to a gladiatorial arena. There was a set of stairs that was made out of like crystalline energy that spirals, very much like Super Smash Brothers, the final fight stage thing. There's a couple cool things. I want to thank some of the people in the community that helped make this all happen. At Nina from Instagram provided the opening prompt. We had at Pepperina_SparkleGem who created the singing soldier at the end of the world. We had scrolling down here, BenX_D&D on Instagram who brought us Neelix the Greybringer and Nephra the Broken Tongue. Although you guys avoided all of the combat from all of that, so that was very, very impressive.
Not fighting. Yeah.
And then at NRD Forge, thank you very much for the prompt that provided the God of Rock and Ruin, our finale, as it were. There were a couple other people. I'm going to save your scenes because we may be doing something similar to this again, but was super cool. Thank you guys very much for joining in. Next week, we will see you at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Kobe Quest, our Kobold-themed one-shot, which will be, again, set the day after our campaign started, some 30-something sessions ago. So we'll get to see a little peek of Port Quinn, perhaps, and maybe some other familiar figures. But until then, thank you guys very much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.